Holy Hannibal Lecter. Tonight we are talking starting pitching, the top 50 dynasty, 5-year focus. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Clayton Kershaw that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out, we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Childs joined again, as always, by Robbie Baseball from the Murder Room. Robbie, what's going on, buddy?
Just finished venting to you about my frustrations. But my goodness, for anybody who's not checking out the live stream, you gotta go to our YouTube page, Dingers Podcast. Not only does Ty do the absolute coolest thumbnails for it, but if you look now at the screen around us, oh baby. Beautiful. I'm looking at the players. I see Jerry DePoto, who's directly above me, which is my favorite one. Otani. Is that Glass now that's in between?
No, better.
Is that Honeywell?
It sure is.
Is that the Honeymaker? And then so it's all my guys on this side. Or wait, on this side. Yeah. And then you've got Grichuk. I'm assuming Tyler O'Neill. Yeah, yep. I'm assuming Tyler. Who's to the far left? Is that David Dahl?
Mazzara.
Oh, just as good. And then who's in the bottom?
That's Tatis with a beauty slide.
Oh, nice.
So nice. You got to go and I got to go. And then our guys.
That's beauty. I love it. Oh, excellent. DePoto.
I couldn't help. I had to fit him in there. It's just too good. So, Robbie, we're gonna be talking pitching tonight, but I think in order to get into the weeds as we did in the catcher episode, we're gonna need to get into.
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Boom, I slow rolled mine. Nothing extra surprising for me. It's a Pilsner. It is my last Pilsner, and I am going to need to get more. Ty, I told you how I crossed the border to buy a truck December 30th, went through the whole fun, exciting COVID protocols and spent big bucks and ended up showing up and the truck was rotted out from the frame. I was so disappointed I didn't buy it. And I was so angry that I didn't even buy beer in the States and bring it across with me. I just wanted to be home so bad. I was so upset. And I really regret that decision because now I'm going to have to go pay those Canadian prices. But anyway, what do you got going on?
Well, I was going to open one of my Basil Haydens that I have sitting here on my desk, but I didn't. I just went to the bottle that was already open, and that's my Elijah Craig small batch, which is fun because I know several listeners have sent me photos of them drinking the small batch.
Oh,
so I've turned a couple people down that path because honestly, it's not one that gets talked about a lot. It's actually a really nice bourbon. And it's very readily available to Canadians who don't have a lot of choices. Period.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I'm just looking around. My pile is behind me. The last time I had a boys' weekend, which was in the fall, and we went trout fishing. I brought up my Maker's Mark, and I said to the fellas, I'm like, "You guys drink this. I need it gone. I can't stare at it anymore downstairs." But I do have my Jaeger here, although I don't have a shot glass, and I've got to work and function very early tomorrow, so I'm not drinking. But no, well, I mean, I'm having beer. That's not drinking if you're Canadian, but
that's right. That's right. So we got a lot to cover. We spent a solid hour and 45 minutes in the last episode on catchers, which was dope.
If you didn't catch that one, Watch out.
You know what? We covered a lot of good stuff, and we've talked about it over the recent months. Like the catching position is turning a corner to productivity, at least moderately. We haven't seen that in a while, so it's nice to see. There is some production that I think is coming. So pitching is always there production wise. You always have to find value here, no matter what. That's a big portion of fantasy baseball. So let's get into it. But before we do, Robbie, we're gonna do the same thing we did in last week's episode. And we're just gonna cover some guys that are outside of our current top 50, guys that we think you need to know about, guys that are either on the rise or we flagged for any number of reasons. So, Robbie, do you want to take us into your first guy out of this group?
Yeah. Sorry, I blew up the screen so I can see even better detail of DePoto's face, and gorgeous. Anyway,
it's a high definition photo, so you're good.
It looks, the whole thing is great, Ty. The whole thing is great. It's too bad you don't have Nomar Mazar on the Mexican League team that he'll be on next year. But I guess
San Diego?
Whoa.
I mean, it's the border. Come on.
No, you're not wrong.
Geography joke for everyone.
big on the geography joke. Okay,
although the Americans might not get the geography joke because they don't take that in school.
They don't take geography?
Okay, so just quick side note. So
Sure.
one of the guys that works for me, we were talking in a meeting this week, and we were joking about like water safety for an event we were running, and there was an event where there would be people on a boat, and we were talking about liability. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you guys don't have water up there." I mean, I'm like, "You mean the 60% of the world's like fresh water that is in my backyard?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about those."
Yeah, we have all those Great Lakes. Just like there's the Glarf League, which we're waiting to figure out what our actual league name will be for that. But we do have a Canadian division that will be entering Earth, is what the overall league is called, Ty. And there are details. It's all the fantasy baseball bigwigs, all the Americans. Well, the Canadians are given the green light as if we needed permission from Americans for anything. But we'll be starting up a league that'll be competing with those guys.
Can we just be like EH, like A, and then we can be the Earth Hat because we're the American Hat.
That's a good one. There are many great ways to do it. I think it has to end in RF. So because somebody said Serb would have been a great abbreviation. I'm like, yeah, Serb would have been a great abbreviation. If you're not Canadian, we'll have to stop with the Canadian specific humor because us hosers get it. And then you American hosers may not, and international hosers and whoever it is that's listening from Australia. Good day. So we're going to talk in this first section, as Ty said, about guys outside the top 50. We will be able to circle back because there's so little going on this offseason. And also, sadly, we're probably, I don't know how the J2 thing's going to work, international signing period. I
think that's still allowed to exist.
Yeah, I believe they'll be able to sign, but we don't know at this exact moment how it's all going to look. So what I'm saying is we might end up with time in February where we get to go back through and hash out the full list because we know for the diehards, that's where you win and lose. But right now we're going to talk about some of the notables, and we're starting off with Garrett Crochet with the White Sox. We need to know if Garrett Crochet is ever going to be a starter or if he's just a bullpen guy. So he's still in our rankings as a starter, even though he was a relief pitcher last year. But he's well outside the top 50 because we got to know, right? We need to know what's up with him. He's got the ability to get strikeouts and he's not a rookie anymore. So let's see what it is that's going to happen with him. But he's somebody in dynasty leagues that was highly thought of and was supposed to come up early and did, but went into the bullpen.
Shocking.
Spent all last year. Yeah, Ty, you did say that was going to happen. And he spent all last year doing that. Now let's see. Same thing with Kopech, but I mean, there's definitely more hope for Kopech than I think Crochet, but we'll have to see. And if you spent a high value pick on him 2 years ago, now's not the time to sell. Wait until you know what's up, because he could still eventually be an effective producer for you if you're in points leagues or if the categories, if you're going on Ks. You just need to wait. Just patience. Next guy up.
The only thing I'll say really quick on Crochet there, though, is if they flirt with the idea of him as a starter in the spring, people might get really excited. You should at least listen to offers.
The time. That's smart.
That still could be a peak offer, because I do think he settles in as a closer. Like, I really think he is their closer of the future, after Hendricks moves on.
Okay. Very seldom as well do we ever hear about guys that begin their career as elite or effective, even bullpen guys like Aroldis Chapman. That was, he was like, is he going to start? Is he going to be in the bullpen? Okay, he's in the bullpen, but is he going to start? And then, eventually we know what he is now. But in retrospect, if you could get Aroldis Chapman, and it's Garrett Crochet is now his name, would you go and do that? Well, yeah. So don't go and give him up until you have a pretty good idea of what's happening. So, but as Ty said, if you get the right offer, you get the right offer. Michael King with the Yankees, up and down season. Absolutely a worthwhile pickup in your league because people just won't know about him. He'll be looked at as like an SP7 maybe on the Yankees depth chart, but he could work his way in through the bullpen, end up getting starts. He could be somebody to note right alongside Reynaldo Lopez, Ty, another White Sox.
Hey, he finished season strong last year.
He did.
He had a couple starts, 3.43 ERA. I've said this for years now. It seems like maybe a decade of Reynaldo Lopez. Like if he controls the fastball, he'll be okay. He had a .95 WHIP last year, which suggests control.
Amazing for him as well. That's his struggle. That is his struggle.
So there could be a real late bloomer here. The rest of the stuff is good enough to play. So it's going to be command, and that's what will you could take a really good risk on Reynaldo heading into the season.
And this is how I'm diehard on some guys. So way back in 2018, Reynaldo Lopez was a major reason why I won one of the 24 team dynasties that I won. And it was him, and it was a good season from Kyle Freeland and 2 start weeks. And, it compiled together. And Reynaldo Lopez putting it together down the stretch, he had a really strong September that year, was a major reason I won that league. I'm going to follow him until he's out of baseball. I'm going to always have an eye on him. And you guys, you listeners, you're going to have those guys too. Maybe it's Jose Quintana and you're like, you know what? He's with Pittsburgh now. He's going to right the ship. He's going to get traded at the deadline and he's going to end up wherever. Cool. It's not warranted statistically. You can get into the X stats and things to try to make a case for it. But when I say not warranted statistically, I'm talking about fantasy stats because that's how you win and lose. You can't win with XWs, but you can win with strikeouts and you can win with other concrete things. And Lopez can certainly become that guy. Up and comer. And the reason we're talking about him right now, Rosny Contreras is his name, is because he is part of the next wave in Pittsburgh of starting pitchers that could make some real damage. Now, the rest of the Pittsburgh team is in absolute shambles, but Rosny Contreras, who was up this year, right? He played at the end of the year, Ty? Yeah.
3 innings. Nothing to write home about.
He made it. He got it in. He got himself in. He could be somebody that goes possibly wire to wire next year. He could also be somebody that comes up depending on what happens with the lockout and suppression and all that crap. He could be up as soon as he's able to, and we could just settle in with him. But he's outside because there is that uncertainty right now, but certainly somebody to have on your radars.
Yeah, I think we'll see him this year. I do not think there's any chance unless he goes lights out in the spring or in the summer, whenever spring training happens.
Let's not talk like that yet.
Hey, I'm going to go with the negative self-talk. That is the way we get to positivity.
Okay.
But I do like Contreras for obvious reasons. Stuff's there. Numbers throughout the minors are legit. Cup of coffee was promising. So I think there's lots to like there. The next guy on the list is Carlos Hernandez in Kansas City. This guy, I'll be honest, I'm not as high on. The K/9 is a little outside of my comfort zone. I know a lot of people got excited about him over the last 2 years with what we've seen from him. Basically, he got to 100 innings over the last 2 seasons. The numbers are okay. It's nothing to run away from per se. But 74 strikeouts and 85 innings, plays in Kansas City. I without looking, I don't know this off the top of my head, but I'm going to guess that his road splits were a touch worse than his home splits based off of that. And I think that could ultimately be the biggest downfall. But I just think at the end of the day, his stuff's not good enough to outlast the other guys he's going to compete against. I think that's his biggest problem, is that Kansas City rotation has competition, right? And so I'm concerned that he can't win a job. And I know, Robbie, you probably are on the other side of this one. So I'll toss it over to you for your note.
Shockingly, I'm not. I am here to tell you that Mike Fiers and Carlos Hernandez are the same person. So you just need to keep in mind that Carlos Hernandez is going to probably playing next year at age 25, going to have the opportunity, but be given the short end a lot, be the guy that gets pulled quickly in a game that they don't want to see the damage with. As Ty said, in 100 professional innings, he has 87 strikeouts. He was a K per 9 in his MLB debut season. Well, almost. He had 13 and 14 and 2/3 innings. So it wasn't until last year with more regular time. But the whip is absolutely something that could be an issue with him. And Kansas City needing to be better and not necessarily having the right skill set within the organization, as well as the depth, right? He was a J2 guy, I believe, umpteen years ago. Let me see if I can find out when he signed. Venezuelan.
I just don't get how you can throw a 97-mile-an-hour sinker and have like not a good offering behind that. Like that's
his ERA of 3.68 and 6-2 record last year are the reason why people are going to be interested in him. And what I'm trying to say here is don't get too excited thinking Carlos Hernandez is some kind of, Brad Keller future stud. He might just be Brad Keller as he was last year. So don't go overvaluing him. That's the reason why he's on the list as an outside the top 50 guy to mention, because I think some people are going to be aggressive on him. And if you happen to have him and somebody's aggressive towards him, make it. Make the trade, because you got Cowher, Bubic, Singer, Keller, Hernandez, Asa Lacy, whoever else they're going to bring in. There's going to be bodies to move around over the next couple seasons. And Hernandez may always just be SP5, but he's not going to produce SP3 levels until Kansas City is a powerhouse team. And they're not ready to do that offensively.
And every single one of his pitches basically is below the league average of movement, right? So a lot of flat
they'll find
stuff.
it.
I could see him being a reasonable bullpen arm, though. Like with the stuff he has, there's a good repertoire here. I could see him being a bit of a crafty closer with the 5-pitch mix. That could be his home. And I think there might be a spot for him there in Kansas City, because they really don't, after Stamos, they really don't have that huge depth in that bullpen.
So next guy up, Ty, you wanted to just make sure all the dynasty owners out there were aware and had the update on the radar. So do tell.
Yeah. So I put a flag on this guy after the draft. I did a little bit of extra homework on him. Carmen Lizinski in Pittsburgh, a very deep farm system in Pittsburgh these days. But this is a guy that I think a lot of people wrote off for whatever reason. He reminds me a little bit of Alek Manoah, just a stocky, energetic kind of guy. And he quietly snuck from A to AAA last year in the Pittsburgh organization. Not a ton of exposure in AAA, so I'm assuming he's going to start there. But I think this is a guy that could creep onto a lot of radars. And I think, similar to what I did with Drew Rasmussen in a lot of leagues, like if you grab him now as opposed to when he's on the cusp, like you're going to have a better chance of acquiring him for almost nothing. Like I think you and I were talking about it, Robbie. I had Rasmussen thrown into a different trade just as a he didn't know who he was kind of guy. And it was highway robbery. And I think you can do the same thing with Mlodzinski as it sits today. I just think and I hope I'm saying that right. It's a tough one to say. Feels right. So we'll go with that.
Yeah.
But I think this is a guy you can get for cheap that has, SP3 kind of upside in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, now's the time. And the prospect that you will trade away probably doesn't have a realistic ceiling as he could, as well as the opportunity. We talk about it all the time. You've got to be in a position where you can play. The players that you're acquiring need to be able to help you when your window is ready. And if it's keep forever, no contracts type dynasty, then there's no harm in making sure you have a guy that you can basically pencil in for the following season. And that seems to be where for sure you're going to get him. So you can kind of have some of those older dudes who can be on their way out. And as the other guys come up, you won't feel terrible cutting or trading or doing whatever you got to do, but the window will be open. And again, they're not going to be the type of guy who come up, go down, come up, go down. It's come up, stay up. Matt Boyd's another guy to talk about, free agent right now. High K guy. We know there's always been an issue. He's just he's this, we don't know why, fantasy darling. And just keep in mind, there are so many other players out there. Matt Boyd is a great one to just strike off your list. Just move on to the next one. If he Ks 220 next year, okay. Did he have a 5, 8, 9 ERA? What was his whip? Where did he hurt you? Don't think about how he helps you in one category when you can find those guys. You can get a lot of Ks out of your bullpen if you do it right. You just have to make sure that you don't fire too much into Matt Boyd. That's what I'm saying.
I would love, and we've seen this as Jays fans over the last several years. Like we've seen guys like Taijuan Walker and Robbie Ray and Matts find their way in Toronto with Pete Walker. I would love to see Matt Boyd back here because I think if you look back to 2017, his pitch mix was a lot different. He used the changeup 20% of the time. He used the curveball almost 20% of the time. Fast forward to the last 2 seasons, curveball 7.5, and the changeup 17 came back up to 17, and up again last year. But the curveball to me is what really is going to enable him to set up the slider, right? Because if you use those 2 pitches, and Kershaw's been doing it masterfully for years with the cutter slider curveball combo. Like I don't know why he went away from it. Like it could be an arm thing. There might have been some sort of medical thing behind the scenes we don't know about. But I gotta think that if you were to put that back into the mix, like we could go back to some of those numbers that we saw back in 2017 and 2018. Like I think there's upside here still because the rest of the stuff's okay. For me, if somebody offers me even a reasonable trade for Matt Boyd, I'm taking it in the deeper leagues because I just think he's going to get an opportunity to pitch somewhere. And I think there's enough upside on the Ks. And with a new pitching coach, he might rediscover something that gets him there. Like I'm not out yet, to be honest.
So like a Wade Miley, maybe. So it's not going to look great, but it's going to get you there. Is that what you're saying?
But here's the thing. Like, what do you think his ERA was last year? Like, do you have it in front of you?
18.6.
No, it was 3.89.
No, it wasn't.
It 100% was. He was 3-8 in 15 games started, 3.89.
Matt Boyd.
Yep, 67 strikeouts in whatever innings he pitched last year. I don't have that in front of me.
No, really?
100%. Yeah.
I love that I already rated him, and now I okay. 127 whip, you said?
127 whip. So that is the thing you're probably most concerned with. Like 67 strikeouts in 78 innings. So like definitely down from what has been Matt Boyd.
Yeah.
But like he got away with it.
Okay, we talked too much about him already. Colby Allard, another guy. Colby Allard was traded to Pittsburgh, right? Is that the
I
right
thought
one?
he was in Texas.
That's why I have both up here. I love that there's too many players.
This is I don't care about this guy.
Well, there was a reason why. I'm just going to look it up quickly. Colby Allard, yeah, he is with Texas. So he was trashed last year, but potential for his age 24 season. Very much a final pitcher to have on your roster. And the reason why I wasn't sure about Pittsburgh was somebody else got traded there last year from Atlanta. That's why. It was somebody from Atlanta that got traded there, and that's the player that I was thinking of, as well as Colby Allard. So again, final guys to get, no longer rookie eligible. But
I have a really strange pitcher rule that I don't pick up guys with the last name that starts with an A. Just never ever goes well.
Wow, I'm desperately trying to think of like an amazing pitcher that starts with the letter A.
They're not out there. Alcantara is a guy that fits that list.
Well, we're gonna have to get way up the rankings to talk about him.
I know, but there's not a lot that fit this one. But if you go to the bullpen, it's a different story, right? The bullpen has A's, but the starters do not. So just a fun little like mind thing for you guys today.
Okay, well, F that. Let's see. Is there an F pitcher? I can't find one. Kyle Freeland. So anyway, somebody else to mention, Tony Santillan with Cincinnati. Broke in last year very briefly, end of the season. Did a couple good things, beat up on Pittsburgh, I think twice, and might be able to squeeze in SP4, SP5 with Cincinnati. Excuse me. Very low value, very low dynasty stock. Certainly somebody to keep your eye on and possibly somebody to pick up. That's all. Very quick. Jackson Rutledge. Absolute A stud potential. There's talk that he's a bullpen guy. There's talk that the expectation from Washington is that he is a bullpen guy. So caution dynasty owners, of which I have Jackson Rutledge in a couple of very important leagues to me. The news when I was discovering this in the fall was not at all pleasant to hear. So just so we're all aware before it happens to us later this year, because right now. Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, in all his games in season this year, he started. So he only had 2 out of the bullpen in the fall league. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves just yet.
Yeah, it's just the need something to talk about. This is what happened. That was the conversation, was that he could be a bullpen guy. And that might be like kind of the scouting direction that he's in. But there's never been a better time to be a starting pitcher with Washington than right now, because the openings are coming over the next few years. Justin Verlander, also outside of our top 50, just so everybody's aware, we try to use 8x8 categories, which includes negative things like losses, because that's something that affects pitchers. And Justin Verlander would fit in a top 50. He would have to. If he's healthy, he's going to be a really good pitcher. However, we also use somewhere around like 5-year rankings. What's going to happen over the next 5 years, and average that out. And that's why Justin Verlander's outside, because we just don't think in 5 years we'll be discussing the very recent season that he just finished. I think he might have 2 years, possibly 3 years left. I don't think it's reasonable to expect him to go beyond that. And he could be like a Roy Halladay, where he's come back from an injury and he doesn't have it anymore. And Halladay had a very poor finish with Philly, unfortunately, because he just wasn't the same guy. Wasn't able to do it, and he left.
Yeah. Next on the list is a guy that we talked about a lot last season as he kind of made his break in with the Yankees. That's Luis Gil or Gil. Forget how you're actually supposed to say that one. We went through this last heel, like you say it like your heel of your foot, Luis Gil. And it's a guy with a dynamite, and I mean a dynamite fastball. Like, this thing is legit.
Dynamite, you said.
It's dynamite. I don't know if that's clear, but that is what it was.
Pow!
Pow! Right in the kisser. But this is a guy that obviously the secondary stuff has to carry him. So he's got a 3-pitch mix. The changeup's good, slider's good. There's enough here for him to be a very legitimate guy. But I do think there's a 0% chance he opens the year in the Yankees rotation. We should see guys like Severino and Tan back in that rotation, which should clutter it just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this, Rob. Like, David Garcia is probably going to be in that conversation. Clark Schmidt probably will be in that conversation.
Michael King. There's a lot of SP4, SP5s that are already in the organization before you get to Hill. But that doesn't mean we're not going to see him.
Yeah, he's 23. He's a must own. Yeah, like he's absolutely a must own in every format. If you can buy him, go get him. He will be a starter. I think the one thing I will flag is that the fastballs were up last year, and he does need to find those corners. And he has a teammate that is the best in baseball at spotting low corners. And he needs to go to school on how Garrett Cole does that, because I think if he's able to do that and set up his slider, this is an ace. But he has to be able to set that slider and change up with the low fastballs.
All right. And Garrett Whitlock, who was a Rule 5 guy, we talked about it before. So depressing, Ty, that we didn't get to go through the fun that we had last year with the Rule 5 and all the names and the exposure that we were able to give to players who eventually did sweet Kyle Freeland all, except for Akil Baddoo, who was good and has promising for next year. But really, we didn't get to do that this year. Last year, Garrett Whitlock was one of those guys. And we just want to know, dynasty-wise, is he going to be a starter? If he's not going to be a starter, then he's not going to have the value for dynasty. And he's still a smart buy right now, because there's every reasonable baseball person will tell you he could be a starter. So not a bad guy to be looking to get thrown in trades and things like that. He depending on your league setup, he could still be eligible to be in your minors. And so it's just somebody to consider. Next up, Spencer Howard, former top prospect, traded to Texas from the Phillies. And it looks like he'll just walk into maybe SP5 next year, SP4, whatever, and get to just throw. So stock is way down. If you are one of those guys who likes to take a chance, if you're a gambling man, Spencer Howard might be for you. And if you ask Ty, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
The next guy,
we touched on him earlier. Drew Rasmussen is a guy that I've enjoyed watching. Like, this spotted up. He did exactly what I just described. I want to see Luis Gil do, except he does it with less panache, if you will, than Luis Gil. So this is a guy that, he fits Tampa's mold. He's crafty. He spots up. He does all the right things. This guy that's going to go out, I would guess, is going to be in competition for the most innings in that Tampa Bay rotation next year. very
Wow.
realistic possibility. I mean, they leaned on him down the stretch this year. So I think they trust him. And frankly, we watched him twice in the back couple weeks against Toronto, and he was incredible. Like, he was so good.
He also has the
And
look of a big game pitcher.
yes, yeah, he
Like
looks angry.
he's the type of guy who you're like, when he's in the dugout, just leave him alone. You
Yeah,
know,
yep.
like
I love
the
those guys.
Scherzer "don't touch my butt" guy. That's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
well,
completely agree. I just think this is a guy that, as I said earlier, completely undervalued, and I think still undervalued. I think if you asked 90% of fantasy baseball players who Drew Rasmussen is, they're going to be like, he plays for like Baltimore, right? Like they have
right.
no idea who this guy is. Like, so this is a guy that you can and still get, and I think, like I said, he's going to eat in. He's going to get you Ks. I'm not ready to say he's going to pound quality starts, because I just think that speaks to the way baseball is today. And it certainly speaks to the way Tampa Bay runs their organization. But I do like him as a guy that's going to get some length this year.
I like that confidence. I don't share it, but I mean, I certainly hope for it. I feel like there are guys in Tampa like Shane McClanahan, Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen's right in with that group. Josh Fleming's obviously on the outside looking in on that now. But
I just think
they're
he's
like,
going to have a lot less inning controls. I think that's the big thing for me.
yeah,
The
okay.
other guys are going to be on inning counts. So
Patino was the other one I was thinking of, Ty. So
yes,
and that means that Tampa's going to move and groove, like you were saying. You can't like lock in that they're going to be getting quality starts, but just the fact that like it seems reasonable this year to expect some of these guys to actually be in the rotation. It's great news either way. Somebody who we're not sure about, and the reason why they're outside the top 50 is Trevor Bauer. It is as plain as day to all of us that Trevor Bauer is an elite starting pitcher. We can hate him for the way he is on the field, off the field, whatever. But he's also and finished last year suspended and was not able to play. We don't know how to rank him in the future. So at this moment in time, he's outside the top 50. I have no idea what I would do if somebody offered him to me in trade. The only league I have him in, Ty, is our home league. I can't see me keeping him. We keep 6 MLBers. I'm not going to keep him. Like I can't. So anyway,
I love that you have that dilemma. I mean, for me, I'm buying, because I think, given the fact that the legal battle hasn't been made public and he is now back online, to me suggests that this is going through kind of under the rug, if you will. I think there's been quiet dismissal of whatever's going on behind the scenes, whether that's official in the courts. Like, I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to that sort of thing. But to me, it just says it's okay, like, for him to continue to play baseball. Like, I don't think he would if there wasn't, his lawyers and his team telling him it was time to go. So that to me is an indicator that we're going to see Trevor Bauer play baseball this year. He might have whatever MLB tries to do to him from a domestic abuse suspension, but I think that will be what we see.
Okay. Well, that's really all we can say until we actually know something concrete. But for our purposes, we've got him outside the top 50. But if you're just going based on talent, he would certainly be somebody you would look to acquire. Obviously, the major thing is his spot in a lineup, and will he play? So next up is Reed Detmers with the Angels. I just have him marked here. He's outside the top 50. He came up quick, and the Angels are stacked again. I don't know that Detmers is in the plans for 2022. It might be a great opportunity for him to be the first guy up at AAA, like the AAA ace and the most popular guy on the team, something to that degree. But I don't want dynasty owners out there to think that they're going to go wire to wire and you're going to see 30 starts.
So this was my concern with Detmers from the beginning. Like, everyone knows he's got a good curveball, right? There's no secret there. It's his go-to pitch. People hit 150 against it, right? The problem is 375 against the fastball. And now this is 20 innings at the major league level, so small sample, but telling. 375 against the fastball, 666 against a small sample sinker, and 571 against a small sample changeup, right? So to me, that says you're going to see fastball or sinker, or fastball and sinker with the curveball slider combo. And so you have a reliever here. That's what I see, because he's not going to be able to sneak the other pitches by as much as he wants to.
That would be interesting if he and Crochet were part of like a new wave of quick to the majors and into the bullpen guys.
Yep.
Like top picks. So anyway, next up here, and I just got these two guys very quickly because they're outside the top 50, excuse me, for us combined, but they're well inside mine. So I just wanted to mention Chris Bubik, and the future Cy Young winner in the AL, Patrick Sandoval. So Sandoval rise to greatness. Anybody who's been listening to us for 2 years will know that Sandoval should be on your roster already. And Bubik has just gotten higher and higher from his draft date for me. And that's great. But opportunity for both guys is there to start next year, and 30 plus starts that I said won't happen for Detmers is absolutely possible for both of those guys with their respective teams in KC and the Angels. Ty, tell me about somebody who's not going to get 30 starts, but you think is better than both of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, both of those guys I think are options. They're 22 and 23. No,
Options.
25.
Yeah, I think they'll be 24, 25.
Yeah, I'm not ready to get too excited about either of them just yet. I think they're going to be serviceable, but I get more excited about guys like Dustin May, which is the guy Robbie was segueing me to. Dustin May has the tightest pants south of Seattle. And so, I mean, there's some swagger when you have a giant white carrot on the mound, slinging some of the dirtiest stuff that baseball has to offer. I mean, I think that's the thing people forgot. Like, we're not going to see Dustin May until probably August. And I mean, that's still pushing it, but he's going to come in and blow the doors out of that bullpen, right, in all likelihood. And it's going to be awesome. So you're going to get some value out of this year down the stretch. They're going to try and stretch his innings to get him back ramped up. They're going to do it out of the bullpen, but I think they will push him. And I think at the end of the day, 4 years of Dustin May is still better than a lot of pitchers in baseball. And, you know, we have to say this with everybody. That's assuming no injuries beyond that. But,
absolutely,
you know, that could be anybody on this list. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, Dustin May to me is a top 10 talent. If he can get the stuff under control, and we started to see it pre-injury, and I think we'll continue to see it after the injury. If he was coming back to start this season, I would give you hesitation, but he's going to come in the bullpen for me. I don't see any way that he's back in the rotation this year, but next year he will be. So I like him to buy. I like him for upside long-term, and I think he's undervalued right now.
Yeah, I mean, he went back in my standings just because of time lost. That's all. Not ability, not skill.
Yep.
But now is the time, Ty. I don't know how many minutes we are in. Now let's talk about the top 50. So we can go with a little bit of speed on some of the guys because they're not as important to your long-term success. But obviously everybody in the top 50 we think has, I would say, minimum 4 years of very effective pitching left in them. Lance Lynn starts it off with us, and he would be that ideal scenario of kind of 4 years left. Lance Lynn, just good. Redrafters are going to love him a lot more than we are as dynasty owners. His dynasty value should be lower because you just don't know at what point in time Lance Lynn will become J. Happ, but that is a reasonable thing to occur, that there'll be some loss in his ability and all of a sudden he's going to fall off. But he's our number 50 rank, and a good rank, I think, is a good spot.
Lance Lynn is all about where you draft him, right? I mean, that's the honest truth, right? Like if you're drafting him early, it's a bad move. If you're drafting him late, it's a good move. If you're paying nothing for him in a trade, if your league's still running or in multiple year format, sorry.
Okay. Like, what do you mean? Please elaborate on if your league's still running.
Well, then, you know, if you're not paying much, he's a good ad. But if you're overpaying, he's a bad ad. I mean, it's pretty obvious, and it sounds stupid to say it out loud, but that's the reality of an older pitcher that throws a lot of fastballs, right? That's just what you have to know that you're getting. You're going to give up some games where he allows 8 runs, but he's also going to go out and dominate in stretches as well. So the next guy on the list at 49 is Shane McClanahan. This is a guy for me I was super excited about after seeing a little bit more of him in the spring, and everybody was saying this is a closer, this is a bullpen guy, and I was sitting there going, spring training matters, and
first
this
and
guy
foremost
is electric. And no one said that. No one was saying that anywhere about Shane McClanahan last year. But if you go back to our spring training episodes, you'll hear me mention, look out for this kid. And it's because of the pitch mix. Like, I really like how he sets up hitters. I think he's only going to get better. We saw it last year. The only thing that happened to him last year is the thing we always talk about with rookies is the back season fade. That's all Shane McClanahan faced last year. Everything else was elite. He just ran out of gas. So buy him. Try and find somebody that thinks that was a flash in the pan, because I promise you it wasn't.
Okay. Well, next up is 32-year-old in his final year of contract, Sonny Gray with Cincinnati. And Sonny Gray's been up and down. Like I'm just looking here, Ty, and like it's everywhere with this kid. Like kid, yeah, he's young, yeah, young enough. 7-9 last year, 5-3 in the strike shortened season, 11-8, 11-9. And then he had 17 was his trade year where he was 10-12. That was the Oakland to the Yankees. And ERA too, 4.19 last year, 3.70, 2.87, 4.90, 3.55, back to 17. He's all over the map. But what he isn't is he isn't a 5.5 ERA guy like the fear was back in 16? Yeah, 16 was the year that he sucked. He was dominant in 15 and then sucked in 16, and then 17 got traded. And that's when things just got wonky for him. But he is a very steady Eddie guy. So I think he's a good acquisition to get. He's going to, I'm sure, get a 4-year contract if he has a decent 2022, and that's going to lock him up for our 5-year window that we talk about ranking. And Sonny Gray comfortably can be a top 50 pitcher. Strikeouts are typically pretty good for him. Last year, 155 and 135 innings. Come on, baby. Sign me up for that, and let him age and let his value go down and let him be on all my championship teams.
Well, and the reality is too, like his numbers are going to get better naturally just by not playing in Cincinnati as his home park, right? Like you put him in any other ballpark in baseball and his ERA will come down just based on the home runs alone. So I think that's something to note too. Like if he ends up, he would be the perfect guy to go to a St. Louis, right? Like somewhere with a big giant ballpark that can house the home runs that he tends to give up a little bit. So yeah, that for me is what I'm looking for him. I think a change of scenery is still going to happen this offseason for him.
Yeah, I mean, we need baseball to return, right, to really know. And in this year, if they do some things with whatever qualifying offers and things like that, like if he ends up on a team before opening day, it's entirely possible he'll spend the whole season with that team. If he's on Cincinnati and they're not doing well, it's chances go way up that he's going to get traded in season. Then he might not have that qualifying offer attached to him. In the offseason, he becomes a more desirable guy. Blah, blah, blah. That's all irrelevant stuff. Just get you some. Ty, 26-year-old Ranger Suarez broke the Kyle Freeland out last year. I'm going to use Freeland as long as I can until I find another F pitcher. So
Fires.
I don't like it.
Framber.
I don't like it.
What the
So
Framber?
anyway, in 106 innings, Ranger Suarez had 107 Ks, which doesn't blow the doors off. The ERA was sick though, and he also had, what was the win total for him here? 8-5 record. He played started the year from the bullpen, then moved over. Once he moved over, he was elite, like 30 plus points per start in September, winning championships for guys, elite, and his stock is going to be insanely high. So Ty has appropriately said, let's pump the brakes on him a little bit. But I also still see an everyday starting pitcher in Ranger Suarez with good potential. If his line next year, I mean, I don't expect the 1.36 ERA, considering that in 2020, he only had 4 innings, but he had a 20 ERA. He's not going to be amazing, but if he has a Cy Young winner, but if he has a 3 ERA, which would be insanely low, and a strikeout per 9, he is going to be so hyped up going into his prime, his true prime as a 27-year-old, which is what we're ranking here, his age 26 through 30 seasons. This is a good guy to have, and that's why he's 47.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's one thing that really jumps off the page at me as a scary scenario. Like, this is a sinker ball guy, reality. His sinker moves, right? I mean, if you look at it versus the league average, it's pretty good. Right. So it's a pitch that really runs, causes some guys some issue, and he leans on it. He threw it 45% of the time last year. Right. So this is a pitch that, he's going to continue to lean on moving forward. Now, the big concern that I have is that, and he didn't really pitch a ton in 2020. So I'm going to compare it to a little bit more innings in 2019. His barrel rate was 5.3. It was cut in half in 2021 to 2.6. So to me, as a sinker ball guy, as a guy that is going to give up natural contact with sinker ball, that number scares me. That's in the top percentage, like couple percent of the whole league with that sinker. So I just don't believe that's a sustainable number. And so what I don't want to do is pay Ranger Suarez prices. Now, if there was a way
Okay,
I can
that's
get
very fair.
value for Ranger Suarez, I'm good with the idea of owning him because I do think he's going to be a more than, sustainable starter. But I just don't think he's going to be the elite guy that everybody wants him to be. Like I'm seeing SP4, to be frank. Like I think that's where he slots in from a real fantasy value. And I'm probably going to be outside of the major groups in that one. I don't see him getting away with it second time through because his inning count was only 100 last year. Not everybody has seen him. So second time around, I think that changes.
Okay, so that is and again, like we've talked about this before, you're going to hear us every episode talk about it. The dynasty ranking out there, a lot of it is either done and updated multiple times within a 12-month span, which really makes it hard when you're trying to set your team up because it's basically hot potato. And if a pitcher goes and wins 5 games in season, all of a sudden they move up a dynasty ranking 15 points or spots or whatever. It's very difficult when they're consistently ranking. Now, if you're starting your league, you need a place like that consistently does updates to the ranks because it lets you know where things are at that exact moment. But we're locking ourselves in because that way we get to go look year over year over year. And someone like Ranger Suarez was not on our rankings last year. That's just a fact. Sonny Gray, yeah, he was on our rankings. He was averaged out about 39.5 on the ranking chart for us. He moved back a little bit this year. But he's still a solid guy. Ranger Suarez, boom, up and kind of like out of nowhere guy. That's where we're falling with him here. So you'll see through other sites or other podcasts or wherever you're getting other content on Dynasty that things move a lot year to year with different players. And we try to take the cautious approach. We also don't say, here's the ceiling this week in January. And then in March, we're like, whoa, he had a 3-inning start and now he's going to be an ace. We're being a little more cautious with that approach. And you will see a Ty. Also, just so Ty knows here, column G on the spreadsheet, as I'm updating the age of the players, I've finagled ruining the average ranking between you and I in columns E and F. And now column G also includes the ages in column D. So I'd just like to apologize. It doesn't affect the rankings we're going through, but it's just the math is starting to get into like the 9th decimal to the right. And I don't know what I did, but I'm okay at spreadsheets. Anyway, next guy up, Sean Manaea entering his age 30 season. All the talk is that just like Sonny Gray, he's going to be traded before the season starts and Oakland's going to do a regression thing. Well, regardless of that, Sean Manaea is back. He's healthy. He's a really good pitcher and should be at that 46 ranking. That's pretty good for him. He should have a 5-year window of full productivity. We have to say it, but we don't want to say it. We want you to assume it. 5 years of health. Sean Manaea ranks exactly where he is right now. That's where he's going to fall. You've got Joe Musgrove, who's now with San Diego, had a hot start last year. And then I don't know if he faded. San Diego faded, right? Everybody faded, but he's entering his age 29 season. And this is the time for Joe Musgrove to level off and not be the major disappointment that he is when everybody ranks him up into the, high 20s, something like that every year in redraft. And then he ends up finishing somewhere in the 70s. Joe Musgrove can just solidify himself now and just be a good every 5th day guy. I don't think we should see the high highs. I don't want to see the terrible lows and the blowups. San Diego should be better. It should allow him to be a 12 to 14 win guy. It's really hard to predict those things, but you have to look at the team around him in the division and knowing that Colorado is just going to do the absolute bottom out approach. There should be a lot more wins available within the division, even though San Francisco is better. San Diego was great.
Just really quick sidestep into Colorado. If they just handed over the scouting operations in the front office to the owner's son.
Damn it!
If we know anything about baseball,
that's why I didn't get a call back.
Putting the coach's kid at shortstop always works. So we got that going for
Well, we
Colorado.
have to find out. We need to know where that kid went to college.
Yeah, right.
And if the program's as long as it wasn't Vandy. If it was Vandy, then things could be okay. But if he didn't go to Vanderbilt, then we will have an issue with that. So
real quick on Sean Manaea before we jump off of that one. Career high 179 innings last year. That's right, career high. So this is a guy that's never made it to the 200 limit. I'm staying away from Minaya. Like, he's too much of an injury risk to me. I'm not touching it. I'm not going there. I'm staying away. Musgrove, I would love to see him piggybacking with a guy like Ryan Weathers. I talk about this a lot. I watch a lot of the late night games, so I saw a lot of Musgrove starts last year. He always starts well. It's the back half of his starts that he just runs out of gas, and it gets into a little bit of command, and he just gets eaten up. And frankly, I think he could be a really effective 4-inning guy. Like, I think that could be his little niche, and you pair him with a young guy that's coming up like Weathers or Morahan, who we should see in the middle of the summer in San Diego, needing to build innings back up as well. Like, those kind of things could make a ton of sense in San Diego this year.
Maybe even that Gore guy. We'll see.
No, he's going to be getting ripped in AAA like he did last year.
I'm just saying. Everybody remember Gore? Remember? Do you remember? Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to prospects. But here's a prospect for everybody. Grayson Rodriguez, 22-year-old with Baltimore.
Sweet segue.
Yeah, thank you. Team sucks. I think they're going to try to win 63 games this year so they don't lose 100 again. But I don't know if we're going to see him. I don't know what the plan's going to be with him. So it's hard to say that he's like a top 30 guy. The talent is absolutely there, but the talent is there for like 40 guys that are below him in the rankings too, that are behind him in the rankings. And the issue is opportunity. So assuming Grayson Rodriguez starts consistently in 2023, that gives him 4 years, that can give him over 120 starts. We're going to see some great things from Grayson Rodriguez. And of course, right now, the price high, but you never know what's going on in your dynasty seasons. And some guys might just not be thinking baseball right now, and you start pecking away at them. And that's where you can land yourself a big fish like Grayson Rodriguez.
I mean, to me, he's right now the best prospect in the minor leagues on the starting pitching side. That's assuming Sixto's coming up. This is my guy in the minors. Very similar to where Sixto was last year, like a guy that's just underappreciated for whatever reason. I don't think anybody doesn't think Grayson's good, but I don't think anybody has him elite. And that's, I think, a major issue. Like, I'm just not seeing him ranked elite enough in enough spots. We
also talked a lot last year, Ty, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we talked a lot last year about how a lot of rankers for prospects, not even like dynasty related, but obviously if you're ranking prospects, you're talking about dynasty baseball, they were just recoiling on the pitchers. A lot of lists had inside their top, I forget what it was, if it was top 100s that I did the count on, no one had more than like 27 or something like that, 27 pitchers in their top 100. It's like, who wins your leagues? Is it your left fielder?
Yeah.
Is it your third baseman? No, it's your starting pitchers.
But
those
if these guys were catchers,
chances on.
They were catchers, though.
Oh man, if these were catchers.
So I'm just going to rhyme you this off really quick. So Grayson Rodriguez last year in 103 innings across two levels, high A and double A, 2.36 ERA across the season. Pretty good, right? 161 strikeouts in a 103 innings. Pretty good.
Wow.
That's a 4.1 clip per 9. Like, that is really, really good. Guess what the whip was, Robbie? You're going to love this one. 0.825.
Yes.
Buddy.
Tell me it's under 1. Yes.
so like, how is this guy not being drooled over? Like, how is Mackenzie Gore being ranked above this guy on lists? Like, it doesn't even make sense.
It's true. I did previously, and I have not yet this year, opted back into a lot of my pay access lists that I got, where lots of different prospect lists where you pay money, you get access to the list. They update it whenever they update it. It's a conglomerate ranking of 15 dudes, or it's one guy's thing, but costs a few bucks a month. I didn't do that this year, Ty, because I believe too much in our ability to sort out success and failure, and being influenced by the rankings of others, and then going down rabbit holes and trying to figure out, like, why is this person doing that and why is that. Now, there are a lot of places you can just Google dynasty rankings, prospect rankings, and it's free. The information's out there. You can go to my website, robbiebaseball.com. I've got last year's stuff. I haven't updated to this year for 2022, but I did that because I thought it was a good way to time capsule it, so people can go back and look and see, what were we right on, what were we wrong on. but you've got a lot of places that just update so much that I think when they talk and write more and more and more about players, they either get super hyped on them and then they fatigue, which we've heard, prospect fatigue. You've heard that across fantasy baseball industry, and then they just don't care as much for them. And I feel like Grayson Rodriguez is probably like at that pinnacle right now, where some guys have just like, they've seen so much and they're ready to see him come up. And the recent failure, and I shouldn't say failures, the recent players who have come up and not dominated that were expected to, have allowed writers and fantasy baseball podcasters, whatever, to recoil, and in their mind, justifiably so. They forget about the Shane Baz that comes up and does well, and they think about the Mackenzie Gore struggling heavily at AAA. You know, they think Jared Kelenic struggling in MLB is a terrible thing, and they now need to like be careful with big parks or whatever it is, right? They are painting all these players with the same brush. I think that's what's happening with pitchers. They're game-changing pitchers. Grayson Rodriguez is absolutely one of the guys that could be a game-changing pitcher, just like number 43 Noah Syndergaard was that one year, that one time. Do you remember? But he's back, baby, and he's going to the Angels, and this could be a huge year for Noah Syndergaard, or this could be the end of us caring about him as a dynasty ranker. But I will say, Ty, I am buying in yet again. I've got him ranked a lot higher than you. He's in my 20s. For you, he's in your 70s, and that's okay. I like the heat. I will get burned because every so often you don't get burned and then you're ahead of the game. So I don't know that I'm going to be the high ranking guy, especially in any redraft. I don't think I'm going to be going crazy getting him in those places, because last year I picked up a lot of the guys who were supposed to come back from injury and do big things, and they all got pushed back. But he's supposed to be back for game one, right? I'm expecting 25 plus starts from Noah Syndergaard. Yep. I'm expecting big numbers. And I feel like they're just going to throw, like they're paying him $20 million, man. They are going to throw him out there every fifth day, or if they're going to continue to do the sixth, they're going to throw him out there every 6 days. He's going to get 25 starts minimum next year. And then we are going to see Syndergaard just cinder sore. Does that work? I'm still working on those.
Here's the big concern for me. Like in 2019, like I think it's probably safe to say he probably pitched a little hurt, given 197 innings, 4.28 ERA. Fun fact though, the FIP that year was 3.6, suggesting that the awful Mets defense we've known and come to love contributed to some of that awfulness. My big concern here is the inning count. Like I just think he's going to be on some sort of capacity limit. And I think it probably is going to be agreed upon in his contract somewhere. Because I mean, as a now pending free agent again, I just don't see him getting 25 starts. Like I think they're going to use the 6 starter rotation with Ohtani. They've got young arms that also need to be brought along slowly. So to me, this was a great signing for LA. Like I think he's the right fit for their team. 27 is a number Rob's showing me. I assume that starts is what you're thinking.
Potential starts in a 6-man rotation. Everybody talks about how a 6-man rotation ruins pitchers. It does not. Typically you will see 30 starts
unless you're
from
Trevor
a pitcher,
Bauer.
right, who will pitch 46 times. But everybody else in the league will typically get 30 starts. And that's because they will have those periods of time with rest leading up to the All-Star break or post All-Star break. It's typically like 30s, like a regular season. So if you're maxing out a 6-man rotation, 27 starts. So me saying 25 still builds in time for Syndergaard, and a 6-man rotation might be the perfect medicine for Syndergaard too.
Yeah.
Give him that.
I do think there's an interesting red flag on his 2019, 24 bombs in that 2019 season, which is the last full season. But I do think there's the potential. I talk about this with Bundy and others over the years, like the dead air in LA for the night games definitely should help that for him. The strikeout numbers should be there. I mean, that's obviously his bread and butter is the swing and miss. So we'll see what happens here. I'm just not willing to go high on him. A guy that I'm a lot more excited about, and I think is a guy that a lot of people are undervaluing as well. Is Josiah Gray. Like, I mean, this is a guy that we're going to see wire to wire this year in Washington. He had a cup of coffee last year with Washington after the trade. I just think you're going to see some development over the offseason here. 62 innings last year. ERA was 5.48. Gave up some hits, gave up some bombs. That was the big thing that happened. 19 home runs in those 70 innings. So obviously we got to get that under control. But, at the end of the day, the strikeout rate's okay. Could be better. And that Washington team, obviously wasn't super exciting and in a ton of games. So I think a little bit of growth here. I think you're going to see a full season, and I think very, very undervalued for the 24-year-old, which was a big piece of the Scherzer Turner trade.
Yeah, and again, another guy, much like we talked about his teammate Kyber Ruiz, who not prospect eligible anymore. The shine has worn off. The redraft community is going to forget about him, and when they forget about him, that's when dynasty owners get to swoop in. Smart people like us, right? And if you get these guys on the breakout season, then if you're doing it in redraft, you probably win your redraft leagues too, as long as the big early draft picks you make don't all end up like mine typically do, which is hurt or suspended for beating the piss out of women. Something, it happens. Well, I'm sorry, Ty. There's a record of it with me. Not me. Wait, no. There's a record of drafting players who end up with horrific offenses, and it even happened last year. So I don't want to talk about it. But back to the point with Josiah Gray. You get him this year for your dynasty league, and you don't plan to start him every day. You wait, you figure out the right matchups, you see how he's progressing. If this isn't the right year for you, your team is competing, you don't want to put him on your roster, whatever, that's fine. But keep an eye on what he's doing. Maybe at the All-Star break, he starts to turn it around, things settle in for him. All of a sudden he's, Tristan McKenzie like last year, he settles in, he gets on a good run, right? It doesn't mean he's not going to peter out at the end of the year. But he could show that brilliance that we want to see from him. And prior to the trade, like Josiah Gray, highly touted guy, and all that was happening that was in a negative was that the Dodgers were stacked.
So and he got hurt in
how
2020. He got hurt in 2020, missed and didn't pitch in 2020 really. And I don't know how hurt he was. I think they might have just also held him back a touch. But at the same time,
the Dodger way, Ty.
Well, his entire minor league career is sub-3 ERA, right? So, across a good chunk of innings, the K to walk ratio is decent. The home run anomaly at the pro level it looks like it's a bit of an outlier based on, the 7 home runs he gave up across his minor league career.
Well, we've seen it before, right? It could be a tipping pitches thing. It could just be, something wonky that's just happened out of sorts. And all of a sudden he comes in next year. It's not happening. He's a different pitcher. So I would Giolito.
Yeah, bye, I think is the takeaway there. The guy that I'm going the other way on is Trevor Rogers. Like, this is a guy that I think everybody's excited about. I'm not gonna lie to you, Robbie. He went second overall in our home league last year, and I just about snapped my neck when I turned to that person because I did not see that coming.
Well, I was super pissed. I will say that. So, and this works out roughly to be what, like somewhere right around the 100 mark, right? Overall,
give or take. Yeah.
So because you keep 6 guys, 14 team league, plus there's rookies, and some of the rookies would be within that top 100, and some of them are not. But when the pick was made, I was super pissed because I was like, he should be going 6 rounds later.
Yeah.
And how does Glenn know who this is?
And it turned out to be a good pick versus what the other options were, to be honest. But at the end of the day, this is a guy though I'm just not ready to write home about, because
you're not going to crown him.
I've said this about a lot of guys over several years now. Like, the guys that go from being mediocre to elite in a really short window and then get shoved into the pros,
Zach Allen,
terrify me. Yeah, they terrify me. And so I'm just not ready to be there. Like, I'm just not going to take that risk. And when you look at the competition that he's going to have in Miami, which is a stacked rotation, I just think he could end up being the odd man out. I don't think anybody anywhere is considering that possibility.
I agree. I think that Trevor Rogers, very much like Zach Allen, is a bonus with Miami, and then he was traded away for Jazz Chisholm. Trevor Rogers might be seen by Miami as that exact same thing, as a bonus arm. They gave him the opportunity. He ran with it. But Miami's still stacked with pitching options. They might love Trevor Rogers. they might think, let's find the right deal that we can ship him off in. And because of that, and because they have a recent history of it with Zach Allen specifically, it leads you to wonder a little bit. But either way, I think Zach Allen is an okay pitcher. I think Trevor Rogers is a better pitcher.
I agree
And
with that.
Trevor Rogers could very much, because he's also entering his age 24 season, could very, very well have like a solid 5-year run with spurts that are a little frustrating here and there. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to get it done. And his ranking as 41 is good. The next one, Ty, I'm not so sure of. I don't like the guy, but the results have been there. Mike Clevenger with San Diego. He's number 40. We both have him ranked a little higher, but when we do the aggregate, this is how it works out. So Clevenger with San Diego, coming back from Tommy John, I believe it's all this year, and then he's a free agent. Might be at the end of 2023. Doesn't matter. He's got at least the full season in San Diego, and they are, again, supposed to be a better team. We'll see if they have hit that kind of 150 inning limit pitch thing you were sort of alluding to with Syndergaard, where they try to take it easy on him, or if they just throw him back into the fire. Like, he's an absolute competitor, right? He's the what was the term that it was Baumgartner. Somebody called Baumgartner like not a hard ass, but it was something, whatever. Baseball terms elude me during a lockout, but Clevenger is just like a total gamer, total gamer guy. So that the results aren't going to be like a 6.5 ERA and he can't strike anybody out, right? He's gonna be in from the start of the year until ideally your fantasy playoffs.
And I think the reality is here too. You're going to see a slow start. I think that's just the reality of any injured pitcher. I think you're going to see limited innings to start.
Because April might look good, but by the end of May, I don't think his numbers will look as good as maybe the first couple of weeks in April.
I'm buying him in May. That's when I'm targeting Mike Clevenger acquisitions. Is I'm going to get on him a couple rough starts when the division games start to come around, and I'm going to go buy him at that point, because I think that's when people are going to be very uncomfortable with him and be like, why did I get this guy in Cleveland and held on to him this long? And that's the right time to buy. So that's what I'm targeting. A guy above him on the list here, I'm super excited about. Shane Baz is an absolute stud. He terrifies me being in the division with our Jays. He is really good. And not just kind of good, like he's really good. This is Tampa Bay's ace. This is the guy they're going to lean on moving forward. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Rasmussen. I'm not ready to say Baz is going to lead the inning count, but he is the best pitcher in that rotation. And that says a lot because there's some talent there. This kid can absolutely huck it. And I am going to beg people to give him to me this offseason in every possible spot I can find him.
Interesting wording. Beg people to give him to you. Okay. I don't disagree. I'm just terrified of the Tampa guys. And part of that is because I don't know if they're going to do the Josh Fleming, Drew Rasmussen 4 innings this week. Then you're supposed to start on Sunday, but you end up doing it on Tuesday. Like, I need to know if they're going to just like have a starting rotation, right? Because like Glasnow, Wood should be back for this one. Like, we need to know what we can reasonably expect before we can slot some of these guys in. But Baz, talent, absolutely. Like, high octane talent guy here. And 23 years old, could be great.
Like, if it wasn't for the age, I would book Baz ahead of Glasnow.
Okay.
That's where I have him.
Okay. I mean, we need Glasnow to come back and pitch and be effective. And he got hurt like right after the sticky stuff, right? That was his thing. And then he blamed on that. Yeah.
We probably won't see Glasnow this year.
Okay. That's what I was trying to remember. If he's out, the rankings had sorted that out beforehand. But anyway,
my guess is that's what they're saying. My guess is we will see him, because I don't think it was a severe injury. I don't even know if he had surgery. Someone hit us up on Twitter at Robbie Baseball 1 at Dingers Pod, or hit me at Turney Boston. Let us know. I just can't remember right now, but I think he maybe opted to surgery, but held off for a while.
Okay.
But I just feel like he's the kind of guy that'll be back early.
And definitely bullpen down the stretch, wanting to be a team player and all that stuff. Right ahead of Baz at 38 is Mike Soroka with Atlanta. Soroka missed all of last year, of course. Very unfortunate that happened, but he'll be back, and he is a dominant dominant pitcher when healthy, also a Canadian. Anyway, so he only has 214 career innings, and 2019 was a first full season for him. Also a big breakout season, 268 ERA, started 29 times. But he didn't have the strikeouts. He had 142 and 174 and 2/3 innings. So I don't know that his value is going to be the highest, but going over the next 5 years, Soroka can really just like settle himself in. And I think we need to, by now, get in before the season starts, get in before we get into June, July, very much like a Jameson Taillon, slow build for his season. Not that Taillon like had a build and then, great finish or anything, but coming back from injury and second injury for Soroka as well, you need to understand that it's not going to just be out of the gate hot, and that's what's going to happen all year. You have to give 2022, pick and choose your moments with them, but understand that 2023 and beyond, this should be just like a locked starter for you.
Yeah, I like that one. Ahead of him is one of my guys, Alek Manoah in Toronto. This guy's just a pitcher. Like, I mean, he's a gamer. He's the guy I want to have the ball when it matters. He's also the guy that I want to have if I need to drill somebody. He did that a lot last season. And so, I do think it's really funny. One of the games I was at last year was the game Marte got hit in the head. It was that big comeback against Oakland. And Josh Harrison was chirping the crowd and chirping Manoah. And now all the beat writers are like, we should sign Josh Harrison. Like, I don't know that that's going to go that way. But I just think it's funny that people are talking about it. But Manoah's got great stuff. And I think the big thing here is that his fastballs are phenomenal. His slider is electric. The changeup's really good, but can only get better. And if he is able to throw that changeup effectively, I mean, this guy is an ace. And he's that good. And if you're not from Toronto, you don't watch this guy pitch regularly, you need to, because he is really, really good. And I don't think enough people have been exposed to Manoah enough to know that it wasn't just a great rookie season.
To Manoah, that it wasn't just a great rookie season.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Come on. All right, next up is John Gray, the 30-year-old version of Alek Manoah. No, he's out of Colorado. He's in Texas. He's got a 4-year deal. This looks decent for John Gray. We're going to see we better see a whole bunch of Ks, and we better see him limit losses, because in points formats, that's going to hurt you. And we'd like to see Texas turn it around. They've spent $2.7 billion so far this offseason, making the team better. John Gray, part of that. So let's assume they're even an 80-win team next year, and then can, incrementally be better over the rest of his tenure and be a 90-plus win team by the time he leaves. That should give John Gray 45 wins as a Texas Ranger over 4 years, something like that. Minimum 25. I don't know. But John Gray should just be better than he was in Colorado, because he's not having to deal with the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of the insane AL West and the NL West. And the AL West will be very difficult this year, but it's not the same. It's still not the Dodgers.
John Gray had his, probably most notable season in his rookie campaign, right? He went 10-10. He was 6th in rookie of the year voting. That's when people were like, oh, this guy's kind of good, right? And over the next couple of years, good. I just want to have you guess what you think his strikeout per nine last year was, and what do you think his career high was?
Last year, he was under 1 per inning, wasn't he?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. You gotta
I'm
tell
gonna
me.
say, okay. Well, so what, like 8.7?
No, higher.
All right. 10.4. I'll go
9.5. 9.5 last
right
year.
Between it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that is the third highest total of his career, and he has never made it to 10. So
okay.
Most people look at Gray as an elite strikeout guy. He's never been an elite strikeout guy.
Consistent.
Never. No. Okay. Yeah. So he's okay. He's good, but not elite. So just something to note, like, as you're buying John Gray, like, no, don't get me wrong. I'm buying John Gray. Like, I'm actually shocked that Robbie is ahead of me in the ranking on John Gray. Yours is pretty aggressive. I'm not ready to go there yet, but I did not.
So y'all,
yeah,
31st.
I have him 46. I did not see that coming for you to rank me on John Gray. That just was not something
It's
I
like a
expected.
Brent Honeywell screwball. You don't see it coming, and you can't hit it.
It's because you're focused on the piece of his elbow flying at third base.
Oh, come on, just so negative. You're so he's even with your boy Puck now, and you're still being negative. All right, so John Gray, we're locking and loading. Consistency is what we want to see from him moving forward. This next one is an absolute like ride or die. Ty, you having him ranked higher than me is interesting. Freddie Peralta with Milwaukee, who had 27 starts last year, career high. The last time he started more than 10 games was 3 seasons earlier. So carry the 2018. He started 14 times as a rookie. And then he became that bullpen spot starter type guy for really two years and change into last year, and then locked and loaded, very much like his teammate Corbin Burns. I don't know if Milwaukee just has the special sauce. Pitching coach is amazing. So they need to get somebody to sort out Keston Hiura. I think they can just leave. The pitching seems fine now. Go sort out Keston Hiura. But Freddie Peralta just looks like he's ready to have a good stretch, good career stretcher. He's entering his age 26 season. Milwaukee's a division winning team. Nobody loaded up before, St. Louis, Chicago, whatever. Like no other NL Central team, loaded up with talent that you're thinking, oh crap, Milwaukee's in trouble. So I feel like they can just repeat it. And ideally, Peralta, Woodruff, Burns are able to continue dominating and getting good lines for us.
I mean, I think St. Louis would have something to say about that. But I mean, Freddie Peralta is an elite strikeout guy. 12.2 K per 9 last year, 144 innings. I mean, this guy was an all-star for a reason, right? I mean, he was good, and I think he'll continue that. I'm not ready to say he's going to be sub-3 ERA again. I think that could be challenging for him, but I do think, being an SP3, sub-3 is for sure notable, right? This is a guy that you want to pay attention to. He's going to go up against, low back-end rotation guys a lot of the year because he's got Woodruff and Corbin Burns ahead of him. So, I think the reality is here, there's a good opportunity to get some cheap wins. And if that Milwaukee offense does a little more damage, now they got Rowdy Talese in there.
Plug.
Oh my God. So we had to get it in. But I think it's a guy to own in a lot of formats. I just think he's a strikeout arm that you can get for reasonable price in every format.
Okay, next guy up here is my guy, number 34, Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie, 4.95 ERA last year.
Sorry, that was just the wind going between his beanpole legs.
Oh, you negative Nancy. Tristan McKenzie will play next year at age 24. Okay, he will be 24, entering his 2nd major league season, second full one. But last year in 29 starts, right? Because he started 5 times at AAA. So he was 41 and a third innings, which was his second highest year. Back health issues, everything's all behind him. Tristan McKenzie is ready to go wire to wire for you. He's a huge K guy in 120 innings at major league level. He had 136 strikeouts, but look for more than that this year. He had stretches of dominance in August into September, and then he was tired. And he did the same thing in 2020, shortened season. He was tired towards the end. That's fine. He was 22 when he did that. He was 23 last year. 24-year-old. This young man is going to help you win your leagues, and nobody thinks that. And the way that he finished, his stat line is very unassuming. He didn't have the innings counts to have the overall strikeout numbers to get on leaderboards. He's just under the radar. Go get Tristan McKenzie. He's very valuable, and he will help you out. And just like think of Cleveland and how they somehow just continue to pump out good pitchers, right? They've got Aaron Savale, amazing, right, Ty? I'm muting Ty. But they have the ability to take guys who you think are not going to get it done and make them effective pitchers. Tristan McKenzie already has the raw skills. They just need to be honed and coached. Well, can't find a much better place to do that than Cleveland. So that's why he's at 34. Next year, he'll probably be 3rd overall.
Yeah, I'm just not ready to get excited about Tristan McKenzie. This is not I don't see what everybody else sees. Like, This is a guy that average fastball velocity is at 92, right? And everybody's expecting this guy to pound the strikeouts. It's not there. We talked about Ranger Suarez, batted ball rate earlier in the barrel rate specifically, like at a 2.6 or whatever it was. Tristan McKenzie sits at 9.7, right? Like that's a significant barrel rate. The previous year, he was in the bottom 10% with a 12% barrel rate. Like that's will continue to be the concern to me. The fastball command is just not good enough. And it's not an elite enough pitch for me for him to get away with it, to throw it 62% of the time, which he did last year. Like, these are just, top end numbers out of StatCast. Like I'm terrified. And over the last 2 seasons, he's actually increased the amount that he's been throwing the fastball. So like, there's just too many things here that I'm just like, woof, like I just don't like it. And 16 bombs off the fastball. Yeah, I'm just there's not enough here.
Ty, that's just guys closing their eyes and getting lucky 16 times. All right. Happens to me in my bedroom sometimes. All right. Close my eyes and get lucky. And let me tell you, friend, he will improve his odds, much like I do, by diversifying the portfolio a little bit. Okay.
I don't even. What does that even mean? Like what? You go
got
from
new
closing your eyes
moves.
and get lucky to diversifying your portfolio. Like what?
Pitch selection. It's pitch selection. What are you thinking?
I'm not sure.
Fantasy baseball.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Somebody with a mustache knocks on your front door. You know why?
Wait, is that why he was there? Okay, so Tristan McKenzie, obviously we're on opposite sides with him, but still understand that there is a good pitcher at his core. But pitch selection, to me, Ty, might be the reason why he's able to elevate further. And obviously, he's deceptive because he's not throwing 97. So, and also his fastball velocity has dropped the last 2 years as the year went on, which again affects his overall numbers, but he still has those pockets of brilliance. I'm just assuming he's going to iron that out and the consistency will be there. I'm not saying he's going to be like the next guy who's 10 years older than him and ranked one spot above, future HOFer Clayton Kershaw, but and actually we have him as an LA Dodger, and I believe Clayton Kershaw at this moment in time is a free agent.
Yeah.
So,
he is an LA Dodger for life, I think. But at the end of the day,
I hope so.
I don't think anybody argues how good Kershaw is. Like he's been excellent, he's great, he's a superstar, all those things. It's just a matter of whether he's playing. And I do think the one thing he has going for him is that he had a bit of a low inning count last year, so there's an opportunity to kick his inning count back up. I don't think he's going to retire. He's too good. He's still too good. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to make some family decisions as to whether they want to stay in LA or they want to go somewhere else, and he has the right to do that. But
it would be weird if he went to Arizona. Imagine him and Baumgartner in Arizona.
No, there's no way he's going to Arizona.
It would just be weird. That's all I'm saying.
I could see, where I could see him that no one is even thinking is Houston. He's from Texas. And this is a spot, like they've got some rotation spots that could be, taken. Him and JV rolling out there in the old man crew, like that could be fun.
Greinke's a free agent, right?
Yeah. Greinke's gone. Yeah, Greinke's definitely gone. But at the end of the day, I think that's a good spot. I mean, Kershaw, could be higher. I think the uncertainty is why both of us have him a little bit lower here.
Well, and he consistently misses games in season, and that might have been part of a Dodger thing, but it also is the result that we have to base his future on too. It's not like he's got this track record and had one off year. He consistently has missed starts over the last 5 years.
Yep. The guy that really came into his own last year, and I think you noticed him probably more than most because of your Dipoto love, but I think most people didn't recognize how good Logan Gilbert was last season. This is a guy that pitched 119 innings, 4.68 ERA, had ebbs and flows like any normal rookie. Like, there's rookies that are really good. There's rookies that are really bad. I think he fit kind of into the average. And he really kind of came into his own a little bit down the stretch. Like, I think he became a pitcher, good whip throughout the year. K per 9 is good. All those things you want to see out of a young kid getting his feet wet. I think there's just a little bit of control that he has to get figured out for the curveball and the changeup. And I think those are the two things that he'll be working on this offseason into this year. But he's in very good company. That team is built to win in the next couple of years. I like the win value. I like the statistical value he's going to get you. I just think this is a guy that should be owned at a higher price point than he's garnering right now. And I think it's kind of weird that he's not getting more praise and hype, if you will.
I concur. That's all I gotta say. Next
Sweet.
guy up, Brady Singer with KC.
That's why you just wanted to move on to your guy. That's why.
Oh,
I see what happened there.
No. But Brady Singer, I have just outside my top 10 because I think there's a big turnaround coming. If you've been listening to us for a few months or more, you will know that I'm a fan of Brady Singer and I like the spot he's in and the potential he has to be better. And I mean, spotted in here at 31, I think is going to end up looking really good for us because he's going to be good. And assuming Kansas City can continue to be an offensive happy team and steal bases and do good things, if the defense can be very good, if they can get themselves one of those, what are they called? Corner infielders. That's right. They need a first baseman and they need a third baseman. And then maybe they'll be a bit of a threat in the AL Central. That would be really fun to see. But in the meantime, Brady Singer's just getting better and becoming a professional and continuing to be one of the guys that they were like, he wasn't a good pick in the draft, much like Casey Mize, right? We had that conversation with them in a previous podcast. So he's just a good pitcher. You get to a point where the guys are just good and there isn't a whole lot to say that, leads you to believe that I think I need to sell anybody on, right? Brady Singer's good. He's underrated.
And we'll get to this with Casey Mize too. I think they both fit the same mold. The sinker command has to get better for both of them. Both of them tipped up a little in the zone, and it caused issues. Like if you look at Brady Singer specifically, like all the damage against him was done on the sinker. Like he threw that pitch 56% of the time last year and had a 3.25 batting average, right? So that's not okay. The slug wasn't brutal considering the batting average. But if you're going to be a sinker ball guy and throw it at that percentage level, like we need that batting average to be significantly lower.
And it will be. I assure everyone.
I hope it will be, but there's an obvious mechanical adjustment that has to happen here because if you look at his heat maps, it's up in the zone, similar to Casey Mize, same thing, and that's why I connected the two. But I think both will make the adjustment. The only thing I will say, and this is the big difference in our rankings, Robbie, I think Casey Mize has better peripheral stuff than Brady Singer, and this is why I'm not willing to put Singer anywhere close to as high as you have him. Mm-hmm. I have him a bit further back. I have him at 52. He's a good pitcher. I don't think he's that great for me. But Robbie, you find value out of these sort of guys. So
I feel like the K percentage, or sorry, not percentage, the ability to K and get a high K count and be really good. Maybe points league's going to be his best format. But regardless, I see a spot right now for Casey Mize to be a good pitcher, and I see Brady Singer to be an even better, even though I think they're both very good pitchers over the next 5 years. So I know I said Mize, and anyway, we'll talk about him shortly. Number 30, we're in the top 30. Sixto Sanchez. What? But he didn't get to play last year. I know, but he's still good. He's only going into his age 22 season. That's right, everybody. Age 22. He is the youngest guy we have dating up to inside the top 15. I don't even know. He might be the youngest guy on the list. I haven't done all the new ages, but I am because I'm cool and hip like that. I'm just punching that in there. Ty,
this is the guy I'm the most excited for this season. Like I want to see Sixto. Can't wait to see him in the spring.
He got the short end of the stick last year, right? Like he should have been up. Trevor Rogers broke out. Other guys came up, got playing time. Was Thompson at the end of the year?
He spent a lot of time hurt last year too, though, right? So I think they babied him a little bit, maybe more than they should have. But I think for all the right reasons, like this is a guy they want to lean on. They're not ready to win, so there was no point in rushing him. Like he didn't pitch at all last year in the minor leagues. So that I don't think he got short end of the stick. I think he was just done. So I don't have an issue with that. The concern I do have from that was inning count, and I do think given there's some depth in the stable, if you will, in Miami, I do think he'll start in the minors because I don't know if he eclipsed the minor or the rookie levels yet. I don't think he did. So I think he's still rookie eligible.
I don't know.
It is still intact. Yep. Baseball Reference is telling me it is still intact. So I think for that reason, you're going to see him start in the minors with really low inning counts and then jump to the pros to make a solid run at the rookie of the year crown. So love him. I'm in on him in a big way. I'm shocked again that you have him ranked higher than I do, which is crazy. But here we are.
Yeah. Interesting how that's working out here. Next guy up, Ty. I know I just wrote his age in, but can you believe that Luis Severino is only 28 years old?
I'm the opposite. I think that's older than I thought he would be.
Oh, like this will be his age 28 season. So today he is a 27-year-old. The first year I joined up in the league, your home league, now the home league, as I like to call it. Luis Severino, I think, was my first pick in the keeper. I think he was definitely in my first 6 when I got to pick 6 guys, and everybody had a good old chuckle at my 6. But Severino was one of it was too early. It was too early. I also picked up Justin Verlander, Steven Strasburg, Kenta Maeda. I had a lot of pitchers.
The fact that you still remember this is kind of sad.
Well, it was very memorable for me. But anyway, Luis Severino has been with me since before he was a good Luis Severino. That's what I'm getting at here. And I think we're going to get back to it. And he's got a lot of life left in him at 28 that I think we could see a really strong movement from him forward. So I've got him as a top 25 guy, ties further back. That's how he ends up at 29 for us. And I think competitive Yankee team, there's going to be wins there, limit the losses. He's got that big body. This is not Pine Tar Pineda. He is legit good K guy.
Yeah. Speaking of good K guys, Dylan Cease next on the list at 28. This is a guy that had 226 strikeouts last year in 165 innings. So that's high level. That is for those that are counting at home, 12.3 K per 9. Good stuff out of Dylan Cease. I think for me, there's a balance here of strikeouts and win totals in Chicago that give me value in Dylan Cease. Like he is going to have, the reality being he's probably going to be a 3-5 kind of guy in good seasons. Between the strikeouts and the wins, though, I think he's a safe bet to give you value over a 5-year window. And that's why I have him at 25.
Yeah, excellent. You've got him at 25, got him at 35, and I like Dylan Cease, so that is fun. German Marquez is the next guy up at 27 for us, the Coloradan Rocky. The poor guy, the poor guy. The team's just falling apart all around him, and yet he's still going to be there chugging away, striking guys out, putting balls in play, giving up dingers when he goes to other parks. But he's a good pitcher, and he gets on good stretches, and that's why he is where he is. There isn't a whole lot else to say. It'd be great if he got traded, but I mean, we could say that about everybody that we think is on a team on the snide. Next up is newly acquired Jerry Depodian, Seattle Mariner, Roberto Ray, or Robbie Ray, as you may know him. Tight Pants Ray, as Ty knows him. And he signed and will be in Seattle for the next 5 years. Well, did he sign 5 years or 6? 6, right?
5.
Okay.
Definitely not 6.
It's a 5-year window that we're looking at, and that's where he's going to be. Now, this is K's for days, right? Ray is K's for days, and it looked like he got himself all sorted out. He's entering his age 30 season, so it's not like we're going to see 1 or 2 years where he's good, and then there should be an expected fall off, like the Hyun-Jin Ryu signing in Toronto. This should be a strong 3+ year stint for a guy who is, he's a Cy Young winner. Who is at the top of his game. Of course he is, right? He just won a Cy Young. So even if there's a little bit of a step back here, that's still a step back to, I think, where we've got him, which is 26th overall for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Ray is a strikeout guy. He's going to give you that. I'm still very concerned. Like, his Cy Young year garnered a 3.76 ERA. Or, sorry, not that. It was 2.84. Yeah. It was close. Thanks for coming out.
You were very close, though, Ty. Very close.
I mean, he's going to give you that. Like, that's just the reality. He's been that way his whole career. But I do think we're going to see a regression on the ERA. I think the walk count is going to climb just a touch again towards some of the numbers we saw back in 2019 and 2018. So, I mean, for me, I don't have a major issue with Ray because the fastball slider combo is as good as it gets in baseball. But That's it. It's all he has to offer. And so that means some people are going to get on the home runs. And the one thing that we saw in the end of the season last year is people started sitting on the fastball up and away. And the reason for that is they were getting baited into the fastball down and in that pairs with the slider. And so I think Robbie Ray might struggle a little bit this year as the American League adjusts again to, lay off that down and in stuff. And I think, if we were to look back and go deeper into it, I'd guess that's what the NL started to do a little bit in his Arizona days, starting to lay off that slider just a touch more. Be curious to see. But there is a couple samples of sub 3 baseball in his career, so we could see it. I'm not ready to put him into the top 15 or top 20. For me, 35 is where I had him. Robbie, you had him at 20.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just think that we're going to see a longer period of success because Seattle's going to win multiple World Series championships.
Yeah, next on our list at 25, Jack Flaherty in St. Louis. Battled a little bit of injury last season. We talked about Milwaukee earlier. This is the team, to me, that's going to win the Central. I think with a more regular season out of Flaherty, we're going to have a bit of a better rotation there. Matz is there now. We're going to see Dakota Hudson again this year. I think there's just a lot to like with that St. Louis team as that outfield gets a little bit better, and Carlson and potentially Bader grow into their t-shirts. And ultimately, there's just a lot there. I mean, we're going to see a better season out of Paul DeYoung. We might see that Gorman guy that everybody's talking about.
That second baseman.
That's right. So St. Louis to me is a good spot, and I think Flaherty's going to benefit from that. Next up at 24, a guy that for me is just the easiest guy to place in this list is Marcus Stroman. He's just going to give you consistent innings. He might give you some strikeouts. He's going to give you innings. He's going to give you longevity and opportunity to get points or value in roto or head-to-head.
And I don't think you mentioned it, Ty. I don't think you mentioned it, but he's going to give you innings.
Yeah, he's definitely going to give you innings if you didn't catch that.
He's also 31 a season. And as we talked about before, Chicago's not going to be terrible. They're just not going to be elite. Yeah. So that's Marcus Stroman. Not terrible, not elite.
And the best part about owning Marcus Stroman is that you don't have to go to whatever fantasy platform that you own to find out how he pitched that night. You just hit up Twitter and he will tell you how great he is.
And if it wasn't good and you come at him, he might come right back at you.
Yeah.
He might come right back at you.
Maybe that should be an underlying goal for us this year is to chirp him every time he pitches poorly.
Well, that we do have fun. Like the Dinger's curse, right? Like we end careers. Just talk to Shed Long. But anyway, next up here is an absolute gamble with the ranking. We're both kind of on the aggressive side of it, and that's health dependent. Tyler Glasnow is ranked 23 for us with Tampa Bay. He'll be entering his age 28 season. Ty, you said you don't think we're going to see him at all this year. If we do, it'll be late down the stretch and then on beyond. So we're saying this guy is so good over the next 5 years that we can rank him 23rd. But we know how good he is. We know how good Glasnow is when he's healthy. So if we get healthy Glasnow and he's ranked at 23rd in your dynasty rankings, in our dynasty rankings, that means he might be available to some of the owners in your leagues that have him. So go and knock on the doors and see what you can do, because this is absolutely a game changer. And there are going to be frustrated owners out there, right, who just finally got Tyler Glasnow to be pitching for them. They got that 2020 shortened year, and then they get into 2021 and he's hurt.
That's right.
So they might take that healthy option that you've got. Now he's going to have to be a good pitcher. He is going to have to be a good pitcher, but you might want to just make that play for the long haul and cross your fingers for health.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Next up on the list, a guy that I picked to be Rookie of the Year fell just short. I actually believe he should have won Rookie of the Year. I think Jonathan India got overhyped. He was terrible.
Well, and Ha-Seong Kim should have won, really, but he just didn't play well.
Definitely not
play well.
But Ian Anderson to me was the best rookie last year, even though his rookie status was kind of suspect to begin with. This is a guy that is only going to get better. He is an SP2 for days, without any question. But I do think he has SP1 upside. And Absolutely. I think very similar to like Stroman a couple spots back, I think he's just going to give you consistency. That's what I like most about Ian Anderson. I just think he's going to be there for you when you need him.
Well, you've got Max Fried, you've got Ian Anderson, you've got Soroka, And there are other pitchers I'm forgetting with Atlanta, but I don't care because those were 3 that
Noah, or whatever that guy's name is.
YNOA.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Is that a campsite?
I thought he fell out of favor later in the year, actually.
Well, I don't know. He's got too many vowels in his name.
Yeah, and he was an up and out of nowhere type guy. But what I was saying was they've got this core and they're getting the comparables to like that Glavin Smoltz dynasty that didn't win era with Atlanta and division winning, I guess, over and over again. But Ian Anderson's just damn good, right? Like Atlanta won the World Series last year. They are the champions, and Ian Anderson was a very key part of that. Look for him going forward. Everybody saw what all the Atlanta players could do last year. So it's going to be hard to sneak past. But as we've already seen in redraft rankings, guys like Austin Riley are not getting picked very highly. So maybe there will be pitchers like Ian Anderson on a World Series winning team that you're still able to get because some of the owners were sleeping on them. Or maybe the fact that there's a lockout, they're just not paying attention. Scoop them up, right? Try. What's worse, like you not getting the guy and the owner saying, no way, he's worth whatever untouchable thing you're not willing to do. Or you engage in trade talks and maybe you pick up a future ace for yourself. Or as Ty said, a consistent SP2. So, and here's somebody, Ty, up and out of nowhere. I don't even know if we talked about him last year. He had a ranking for us north of the 130s, but San Francisco did it, man. They made Logan Webb a dynasty must-own, ranked 21st for us, a pitcher. Entering his age 25 season, this will be his 4th major league year. Crazy. What's his deal?
I'm a huge fan of what Logan Webb did last year. I mean, at the end of the day, I wasn't ready to anoint him the guy that I had. Like, I have him ranked very high.
You do.
I have him ranked 9th. And this is a guy that's age 22 debut. He's currently 25, so he kind of slid under the radar for a couple years here. But down the stretch, this guy was just really, really good. And so, I mean, there's just a lot to be excited about. And he was a big game pitcher in the playoffs. So all of those things to me suggest this guy's ready to shine. His ERA was sub 3 for a good chunk of the back half of last season. And then just had a little bit of wear and tear down the stretch to leading into the playoffs. But I mean, he was elite in the postseason. So I have zero issues with him moving forward. I'm just going to pull up his NLDS starts really quickly. 14 and 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, 17 strikeouts. Yes, please. This is a guy that can pitch, and he made the Dodgers look stupid. And that's a good Dodgers team that he made look dumb. So, I mean, for me, I just think there's still growth here, and that's why I have him ranked so high, because he's got the pitch mix, and it's kind of funky. Like, the delivery is just a little wanky, and it gives you that little bit of an edge because it's not a traditional guy. And I always get excited about guys that can do that, but also have elite stuff that they spot up as well.
Wanky delivery, everyone. Did you get wanky delivery from Logan Webb?
I feel like the entire San Francisco Giants rotation is wanky. So I think it fits.
Okay, that's fair. Logan Webb is 100% a guy that was a victim for dynasty owners of no minor league baseball in 2020. He was obviously impressing the pants off of the big guys in San Francisco enough that he was able to get the full ride in 2021. And that's why he's here. It was career high in innings pitched for him, 140 something. And we're looking for more and bright future from will be playing his age 25 season.
And just to give you some context, like his 2017 season, 2.89 ERA, 18.241, 19.185, right? So it's not like he came out of nowhere. I think your point, you hit the nail on the head. Like, he just got forgotten in a weird 2020 season.
Yep. Had a little bit of pro time, not enough to really, bust in, and was consistent in the minors, and then no baseball. So fell off the map, and there he is. Somebody who didn't fall off the map but got hurt, came back, and was very good for a very good team that we hate, the Boston Red Sox. It's Chris Sale. He'll be entering his age 33 season, and you know exactly what Chris Sale can do because he's been doing it for a decade. So high K, low ERA, watch the whip. 18 plus points per game in a points league, and he's on a team that frustratingly is still good. So
Yeah.
there you go. Kevin Gausman, new team with Toronto. I've got some hesitations, but I know the base is there for Gausman to succeed with a competitive Blue Jays team in this window for them. So I think, like you had mentioned with
Stroman.
No, not with Stroman, somebody else, Dylan Cease. Wins and Ks can be the reason that a pitcher is good, and wins can be an important part of that. I think with Toronto, Gausman's going to be able to get wins. He might give up 3 or 4 runs in the games that he's winning, but he'll still be able to get the wins. And to me, that's why he's an inside, number 19, a top 20 pitcher. For me, he's just outside at 21. But I mean, that's, semantics. We're getting in with a lot of those guys are very close.
And I think really quick thing just for all the Jays pitchers, like the defense is very underrated. It's an underappreciated defense. They did some things last year that didn't get enough press. And it wasn't like elite like San Francisco's or some of the other teams out there, but I think there's enough to be excited about. I think 15 wins is very realistic for Gausman this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a team in a tough division, but a lot of wins, Tampa Bay, Boston, New York, Toronto, all trying to win. Baltimore trying desperately to get the first pick for next year. So it's all lining up, right? It's all lining up. At some point, Baltimore is going to start to sign guys, and then this is going to be quite the interesting thing to see how the Red Sox cycle, see how the Yankees cycle. And I mean, we just assume Tampa Bay is going to keep chugging along. But you got a guy like Gausman who has a lot of history pitching in the AL East. He's going to be comfortable in all these parks. Montreal will be a new one, I guess, for everybody that'll be entering. So that might be an interesting part of the AL East now, but we'll see. We got to get there first. So next up at 18, guy this is the only guy I see that we've ranked the same at, but no, we've got the next 2 guys both ranked 16 and 17. So ranked 17th for both of us is Casey Mize with Detroit. We talked a lot about him on a previous podcast with Brady Singer, and who would you take between the two? So they're quality guys, right? I don't know what else.
Yeah, I just think every time I see Singer pitch, Mize pitch, I'm amazed to see his stats. Like he just looks so good every time I watch him pitch, and then I look at his season stats, and they're just very mediocre.
So you would think he is amazing.
That wasn't bad. I'm not going to hate on that one. I don't love it, but I'm not going to hate on it either.
I don't have anything else to drink down here, so all I can do is just pun away. Like I got hard stuff, but
I think the big thing you'll see this year is the progression of the strikeout rate. I think that's going to be the big off-season goal for Casey Mize, is just to get those strikeout numbers up to where Brady Singer's are. And I think that will do wonders for his fantasy value. To me, this is a guy that I think most owners are going to be like, I'm not super excited about this first overall pick anymore. And I think you can steal him a little bit in a lot of spots. So next on the list, Scherzer, as Robbie mentioned, we both have him at 16. He comes in at 17 on the list due to the aggregate format. He's a Hall of Famer. There's not a lot we can say about Scherzer. I am concerned about 3 seasons of Scherzer that I'm not ready to be excited about. Like there were some games this year where he looked very hittable.
Yeah, as a guy who has Scherzer in several leagues, Ty, I can attest to the fact that he was frustrating at times, and then when he was not playing, or he had like a really, really short start with the Dodgers as well in September, that was frustrating for me. But I mean, wire to wire, obviously as a roto, I think that's his biggest value is as a roto guy. So you just wait till the end of the year, right? Watch the paint dry. That's where you're going to want to get Scherzer. Now you don't want to pay for him as your SP1 in my mind. You want him to be the second pitcher you're getting, but if it's dynasty and you want to win week to week, you're head to head, Scherzer will win you weeks. 2 start weeks with Max Scherzer, I don't know, you can find a better pitcher. Obviously we've got 16 guys ahead. So there are other options, but if you're getting peak Scherzer, you will not find anyone who I mean, within reason. He can win the week.
Next guy on the list, Luis Castillo, future Toronto Blue Jay. I have him ranked 12th. Robbie has him 19th. This is a guy I own in a lot of places. I mean, I'm very, very high on Luis Castillo. The stuff is as good as anybody's in baseball. I think there's an opportunity to get him in a lot of spots this offseason. He had a really rough first half of the year last year, but finished quite strong. So this is a guy that I'd be looking to buy in a lot of spots if you can. And
I will
just
say this. Sorry, Ty, go ahead.
You're good. No, go ahead.
I will say this. I feel like we're about to talk about a good crew of guys who are outside of the next guy up, a good crew of guys who have all had moments where they have been fantasy darlings. And then they have also been on the other end, which Luis Castillo for the first time was on the other end of that. He was sinking your team, not helping them to soar. And because of that, there will be people who just don't like him. So it's a matter of finding the people who just don't like Luis Castillo, who don't like some of the next guys we mentioned, and getting those players, because at the end of the year, they have helped you out 20 times in the season. And maybe there are 10 starts where they were either average or bad. But I mean, 2 out of 3, that'll get you there, right? That'll get you into your playoffs. If you're in a head-to-head format, that'll get you into your top 3. If you're in a roto, it will keep you competitive for several years. And he's entering his age 29 season. So a lot of career left for a guy like Castillo.
Yeah, I completely agree. Brandon Woodruff's the guy ahead, had a phenomenal season last year. I don't think there's much to really go on about. I think we expect exactly the same out of him next year. I do have concerns year 5 for Woodruff, just based on the repertoire. Good, but not like wipeout good in a lot of cases. So those are always the guys I fade on. He's entering age 29, so just a little bit of concern there. The guy ahead of him does have the wipeout stuff, does have the elite stuff, and that's Frankie Montas, also potential future Blue Jay.
I was just saying, how many more are we going to get here? Future Blue Jay. Hey, you guys homer out. No, we don't homer out. We suggest they get signed by the Jays or traded.
So Montas is a guy that just got great stuff, and he faces the thing Castillo often faces, which is location, right? The better your stuff, the harder it is to control. That's what makes the elite guys elite, is they can control that nasty stuff. Montas, Castillo, sometimes it gets away from them. But I think Montas is a guy that I'm just going to throw it out there, Robbie. Mm-hmm. I think is a dark horse. Like if you're betting, I would throw in a reasonable bet at Frankie Montas as a potential AL Cy Young. Now, if he goes to the NL, I don't think he has the same odds. But if he stays in the if he stays in the AL, I like him because I do not believe he's going to be an Oakland Athletic next season. So I think that means he's going to go to a contender.
Jeez, that's a lot of house cleaning that Oakland could be doing. I think Frankie Montas has the stuff to be your fantasy ace.
Yeah.
And from the moment that he, was able to officially break in with Oakland, like their SP5 guy, we were talking about it. We were saying this is a potential guy, right? Like, got a new pitch in spring training. He has been so fascinating and he's been good. And he has been exactly like I said with Castillo. He's been good and he's been bad. And you get to the point as an owner, especially in multiple leagues, when you are a fantasy player and you have the same player in different formats, you figure out where they are actually the best. And Frankie Montas can really hurt you in points leagues because when he blows up, he's -4, -12. But when he's your ace, he's 40 points. When he is at his peak, he is so damn good. But if you want the ebb and flow, you have him in head to head. He's, not necessarily going to finish as high at the end of the season as he could in points, but man, he's so good. If he can just have a smooth year, like the Zach Wheeler year, that's going to be huge for him. And he's young enough that he's got a lot of baseball ahead of him. Just like other 29-year-old, the lesser of the Nola brothers, Aaron Nola, with the Phillies. And again, he's cycling through, right? He's ranked 13th for us. I've got him ranked as my number 9 guy. I think we're just fatigued on Aaron Nola, but he still is able to be an effective pitcher. He can do some great things. Philly obviously needs to be good, but having a 9-9 record with a 4.63 ERA last year, not helpful. Doesn't make it look like a top 10 dynasty pitcher, but you got to look at the body of work and think, okay, he can consistently be in the 3.30s with an ERA. So what was up last year? Well, I'm going to say that was a blip, right? He started 32 times last year. He's consistently healthy. He had a full year of starting last year. Same in 2020, same in 19, same in 18. I want to see Aaron Nola back on the mound healthy. He's going to be great. He's going to be getting, I don't know, what's the best. He needs a shortstop, I guess. He needs Didi to maybe move to second or something. He needs the best infield he can have to make him even better when balls are in play. That's, to me, that's the big thing for Aaron Nola, is the team around him needs to be better.
I think there's a mental thing for him. I think that he needs to turn some sort of light switch on, because like when he's good, he's great. But when he is bad, he's really bad.
Do you think it's because his brother's better than him and now he knows it?
It could hurt. It could be part of it. I as the Austin Nola in my brother relationship, I don't know exactly what that's like, but it could be exactly that. Next on the list, Lucas Giolito is a guy that you love, Robbie. So I'm going to let you go there. You got him ranked 7th. I'm at 20. Good, not great for me. You got him great. Talk to that.
So if you want a fantasy workhorse and you don't want to pay the piper, you go get Giolito. 11-9 last year, 3.53 ERA. What was it? 6 bazillion strikeouts. No, he had 201 strikeouts and 178 and 2/3 innings. But the year before, he had 25 more Ks than he did innings pitched. And the year before that was his big year, 228 Ks and 176 and 2/3 innings. I don't like to talk about all the numbers, but I think some of them are key. We've talked about it with Cease, with Chicago. You've got wins. It's the same thing. You've got high Ks. It's the same thing. You've got a competitor. You've got the ace of the rotation, and he's got enough career ahead of him entering his age 27 season that this is a great time for him to just settle in and be that guy. Now, the ERA is, I mean, clock her in at 350 this year. He's consistently been between 340 and 353 the last 3 seasons. So let's just say 350 is what you're going to get. That's great. Like, take it because you're getting a ton of Ks, you're getting all the rest of it. He just does not hurt you. And that is one of the reasons why I think he is a guy good to go forward, good to have in your lineup, and worth the investment.
Yep, I don't disagree. Moving ahead is a guy that I, again, had a bit of a recoil last year. Max Fried comes in at 11 for us. This is a guy that really kind of came into it a little bit down the stretch. Again, I think this is a guy a lot of people shy away from because he doesn't have the big power stuff that everybody likes to drool over these days. But a guy that can pitch. I mean, he's got the kind of, I don't want to say Barry Zito because very few people have the Barry Zito hook. But this is a guy that pitched to a 304 last year, right? And I think
Tom Glavine, same team.
Yeah, maybe
he's
that
like
might be a better comparable. I agree. The only thing with Tom Glavine, though, is he got away with a lot of stuff. He had a lot of base runners. Tom Glavine was a friggin' magician. Fried is a little bit different. Like he's 14-7 last year in a year that I think most people would agree he struggled. And he pitched to a 304. So that just speaks to how good this guy actually is. When people thinks he sucks and he almost went sub 3, like with a 14-7 record, like that says he's in a lot of games and he's doing what he's supposed to do out there. So I'm a Max Fried guy. I own him in a lot of formats. I'm going to continue to own him unless somebody wants to overpay for him, which I will also accept trades for. But this is a guy that you should want to have.
I think in 400, like roughly 450 MLB innings, to have 450 MLB strikeouts is a good thing. There's been ebb and flow. A few years where it was a bit higher, a few years where it was a bit lower. Well, last year was a little bit lower, but he's also been really good at keeping his ERA down, as you alluded to, Ty. He's not getting it done from the eye test, but he's getting it done on paper. And that's how you win fantasy baseball, is the results on paper that get it done. So if you can bottle this up for 5 years, you are getting a really good pitcher. And I even think our ranking at 11 might not actually tell the tale of what happens for him the next 5 years, even though we both have him ranked a couple spots back, 13 and 14. He's good, and his team is good, and the division he's in is weird. So it's a matter of if he can continue to be this dominant pitcher. 17 wins in 19, 7-0 in the shortened 2020, won 7 of his 11 starts, but had 0 losses. And then 14, like you said, last year. So he's getting you wins, and that is so important. Just having that guy that gets the wins, right? Zach Wheeler last year, career year. It sucks that he's 32, because he's good. And I'd like him to be less old.
Be less old. Yeah, I mean, his stuff's great. He's a power guy, stuff down in the zone, decent slider. Like, he's exactly what you expect a dominant SP2 to be. He showed flashes of SP1 last year. I think he has that upside, but I think realistically for me, he is an absolute elite SP2. And I think if you enter with that expectation, you're going to be happy as a Zach Wheeler owner. I think where people get frustrated with Zach Wheeler is they want him to be Cy Young winner. And I think to me, he's always going to be second fiddle kind of guy. Even though he's going to be pretty solid. The velo tick up over the last 2 seasons definitely helps a Zach Wheeler. But I still think I'm going to temper your expectations on Wheeler and just say he's good, bordering on great, but just efficient. As long as he's healthy, you can count on Zach Wheeler.
I would say exactly what you just said about Zach Wheeler is what you say about Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios had his career year last year within the trade and like the great run with Toronto. I don't expect him to be able to just continue exactly what he did last year. I think there's going to be ups and downs with him, but overall he's going to be a really good, consistent pitcher. He ends up as our number 9 guy, but I don't think he is an ace. And I would not want to treat him that way on any of my teams.
I think the one thing people don't talk about in Toronto, and I think the players talk about it after they leave Toronto, is just how crazy it is to play in the Dome. Like, the Dome is a crazy place. It gets really, really loud. And you've heard Verlander, Price, and other guys that have been through and played there regularly talk about how good the mound is, right? So we always talk about Pete Walker and all the things for these pitchers, but everybody likes that mound. So if you now start to correlate some of that possibility being related to the mound and also to the Pete Walker scenario, I like Barrios to be great. He's durable. I think that's the big thing why I have him so high. He's durable. He's on a good team. He gets strikeouts. I mean, that right there is what you want in a top 10 starting pitcher. I think that's where you leave it.
Yeah. Sorry, Ty. I was just answering a question for friend of the podcast, Woody, fantasy baseball community friend Woody. He was just saying, where do we have Mike Zunino ranked? And I said, our official stance is gross with a puke emoji.
That's but completely appropriate.
He's playing in a best ball, and he says so far he has one catcher, and it's Adley Rutschman. So he wants somebody else. And I said we had Zunino ranked 44th. So for anybody who was wondering where we have him ranked, 44th. But we're talking SPs right now. We're talking the top, the cream of the crop.
Yep. This is a guy I'll segue into because you're going to talk about him. That's Sandy Alcantara. It's a guy that Rob loves. He has a last name that starts with an A, so I'm out. We talked about that earlier in the show. But this is a guy that I'm not going to pay the price people are paying for him. To me, there's just too much risk to owning him at the price point. And I think this year is going to be overpriced. Where you got in a lot of spots, Robbie, was the right place to own Alcantara.
Yeah.
In
2018.
and partly the reason I don't own him because we're in a lot of leagues together and you got him way early. So, there's a lot of reasons not to own him. But the big one is price point. So Robbie, talk to why you want to own him in every format.
Well, Miami's an emerging team like that. We just said the division's weird, but they could certainly be a good team. They could be getting better as time goes on. And Alcantara should be right there, right? Alcantara was a big K guy when he was a prospect. He got the injury. He's learned to pitch. And as he's learned to pitch, he's become better. Now the Ks are starting to go up. Everything is coming up Millpool. And when it comes up Millpool, you need to concentrate and get those guys. Alcantara's worth it. There are not a lot of guys who I would say, oh, I would go and get him. He's young enough. He's strong enough. And God dang it, people love him. Alcantara, right time of his career to get him was 2 years ago. But everyone's starting to pick up on the fact that like he's an every 5th day guy. He's a quality start type guy, K per inning guy. Like he's checking all the boxes. And the consistency for me is one of the big things. The difference between Alcantara and Barrios to me is Alcantara's ceiling is higher than Barrios, but the team Barrios is currently on should be winning more games. Long term, I think advantage will go to Alcantara.
Okay. All right.
That's it. That's what I got for you.
Next guy on the list is a guy that I think a lot of people got familiar with last season. family friend here at Dingers, Julio Urias, is a guy that we've been telling you about for years, and people are like, yeah, whatever, guys, cool. Well, guess what? We were right. He's a good pitcher. I did have concerns last year. I'm not gonna lie that I thought the pitch mix change could disrupt the success. It did not. I was wrong. Happy to admit that. I'm happy that I get to look back on future or past Tyler and past Rob and say we were right, and ignore like recency bias Tyler. And it's simple as that. I think we're going to continue to see improvement and refinement. He's on a great team, obviously, so a lot of good value there. Jumping up to the next guy on the list, Corbin Burns. Robbie has him at 10, and I'm going to start there, Robbie, because that is perplexing.
I'm afraid of Corbin Burns. I'm afraid of Corbin Burns
because he throws a 98-mile-an-hour cutter. Is that why you're afraid?
No, it's the consistency that I'm afraid of, and it's not the like start to start. It's the year to year. I'm afraid Corbin Burns could have Robbie Ray tendencies where he's in a pocket of greatness and then he falls out of it, and that's my concern. Now that is a bias as somebody who gave up on Corbin Burns 2 years ago and traded him to you. In just like you don't have Sandy Alcantara, you have all of the Corbin Burns shares in the leagues in which we cross over. But it's just it's just in my head. I can't shake it. I look at the stats. I know what the stats say. I look at how he pitches. I know the pitch selection, but I just have a fear. And I mean, we're talking the 10th out of 360 something guys. Totally. So it's not like I'm saying he's bad. He is damn good. But that's why he's 10th for me, and you have him at 3rd, and I don't have him. I like everybody that I have ahead of him more, and that's really the reason why.
Which is fair and reasonable. I mean, we're in elite of elite guys here, so you're bang on there. I wanted to get there. I'm still in on him. I think he's a top 5 guy, healthy. The only flag I'll throw on 2022 here is that we did see an obvious inning count hike for him last year at 167. Career high before that was 59 in the shortened 2020 season. So that's the one red flag for me, is that we could see some inning restrictions for him, especially early. I think is what you might see. You might see some 5-6 inning outings for Burns for the first 2 months just to nurture him. At least that's what Milwaukee should be doing. If they're running him out there for 7, 8, 9 early, I might be looking to trade him because that could be potentially damaging. Next at number 5. I'm going to be the low guy here in most formats. Shane Bieber at 5. I have him ranked 7th. You have him too, Robbie, for obvious reasons. Like Shane Bieber's a good pitcher.
Well, very much like you like Corbin Burns. I like Bieber. I think the ceiling with Bieber is probably as high as you think the ceiling is with Burns, and that's how we see it, right? Like I saw Shane Bieber demolish pitching in 2020, demolish lineups in 2020 and be a horse. And then I didn't get to see it last year, but it didn't mean to me that he dropped off. It just meant that he just didn't get to do it.
One big thing for me with Bieber is he's not overpowering, right? He's got good stuff. There's really nothing wrong with his pitch repertoire. The K per 9 rate, it fits my expectations of what I want to see out of a good guy. He had a 14.2 in the Cy Young 2020. He was really, really good in 2020. There's nobody anywhere that's going to argue that. The concern for me is it was a little saturated by the NL Central starts that he had in the crossover games.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm going there. But at the same time, like, I'm not trying to take away from that he's good. I'm just saying that 2020 was better because of those things and because of the scenarios that we're facing. I do think the 3-2, 3-4, like kind of in that Giolito territory, I think is where we'll find Bieber.
I think he's a lot higher. Sorry, not higher. I think he's a level above with the K ability for Bieber. Even though you're talking about the dominance on the mound, possibly not being there, he just gets guys out like 259 Ks. It's 122 and 77 innings and 134 and 96 and 2/3 innings. He just striking guys out.
Quick reminder though, like he also had a good defensive infield at that point, right? He lost one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball. And that will continue to be a thing. Like if you look at the FIP in 2020, when that Lindor guy was still playing shortstop, he had a 2.07 FIP, lower than above his 1.63 ERA, right? So that's pretty standard for a 1.63 ERA. But if you look at last year, we had a very reasonable number. My guess is over a full season without Lindor, a full healthy season for Bieber, you're going to see that defensive metric impact his overall outcome. So as a slider cutter guy, there's going to be a lot of soft contact up the middle. And so I'm just expecting to see some bad luck for him that could be sustainable. And if he misses some things and gives up some bombs here and there, like these numbers could be very pedestrian, which is why I have him backed up. I just it's not the wipeout guy that I want him to be, and that's really where I'm stuck, to be blunt.
Okay, well, you still have him ranked 7th, so you still like him a lot. And
Yep.
Anyway, Jacob deGrom.
He's just not on my MLB The Show team. That's really what it comes down to.
Oh, okay. Now the truth comes out, everybody. Jacob deGrom is 4th. He's 34 years old. He missed time last year. He's really good. There was that whole thing where he had more RBIs as a pitcher than his lineup. Like, who cares? DeGrom just needs to be like Scherzer and needs to be healthy. And when you have guys that are so good like DeGrom and Scherzer, and all they need to do is be healthy so that the team can be good, but the team is the Mets, you just know something's going to go wrong. You do. So I can't rank him any higher. And if you have justification based in statistics that make him better, okay, then rank him higher than 4th. But that's what we got. That's where he is. He's a Met, and the Mets are going to Mets. So
I agree.
But he's amazing.
They don't Mets around. But ahead of him is a guy who we like to love and love to put near the top of the list, Shohei Ohtani. I love Shohei Ohtani moving into this year. I liked him last year as a guy that we expected to bounce back. He did exactly that. He league MVP. He was very, very good. But he became a pitcher last year, Robbie, and I think that's the big thing. Like, we knew he could be, but he actually did it last year for the first time in a sustainable run. And I think he's going to build on that. Like, I think we're going to see. I don't actually know the inning count. Do you know it off the top of your head, like roughly what he got to last year?
No, I do not. I feel like it was 120 something. And the year he got hurt, I feel like was 77 something. Which
so
is
he
why
had. I'll pull it up right here. This is all confusing because he pitches and hits.
Well, I will say this for Ohtani while you're looking up what you're looking up.
130 innings.
Okay.
So I think 180 is reasonable this year, which Ohtani at 180 becomes really good. Like 156 strikeouts in 130 becomes almost 200 strikeouts. So that's where
he'll hit 46 home runs and steal 26 bases.
I'm gonna put out something right now. And
don't.
I would love to be wrong.
I'm
gonna say sub 30 home runs this year.
No, he is a power. He's a power first bat.
Doing it. I'm starting that controversy.
He is a 900 OPS, 30 plus dinger guy all day long. But anyway, Ohtani's just like fascinating. We all got to really enjoy it last year. And what was the most frustrating thing was all the stupidity about MVP talk and like how if he was ranked as this position, ranked at this position, he would only be here and only be there. Well, he wasn't. He was doing both of those things.
Yeah.
That made it so amazing and so enjoyable. And people just need to get out from under their butts. Dynasty owners, where I have him, which is several spots, he was awesome. He was so much fun. The only crummy part was that in the lineups or the leagues where they weren't daily lineups, I had to figure out what I was going to do with them that weren't the Yahoo, right? Because Yahoo is 2 dudes. Problem solved for once, Yahoo. But all the previous years where we crapped on Yahoo, that's still fine. But having the 2 of them on the roster. But anyway, it just sucked because I was like, do I want him to be my pitcher? Or do I want him to be my DH? And if it was for like 3-day locked lineups or for 7 days, I just picked the DH because he was so much more valuable. But this year, I think he could be as valuable on the pitching side as he will be on the hitting side, which I think ties what you're also saying. But You're saying that he's going to regress a bit at the bat, but also progress as a pitcher more. And I do agree that he's going to progress more as a pitcher.
And the other thing to keep in mind, too, is that if he does struggle at all, like he's going to get bumped down that lineup with a healthy Trout and Rendon back this year. Right? Like that's another piece to consider. Like he got a lot of extra at bats last year that he's probably not going to get, some input on. I love
including the games he pitched.
from the bleachers, who are we talking about? Xavier Fire coming in here on YouTube. We're talking Shohei Ohtani, making a big step forward here on the pitching side of things, right? And it may be a touch of a regression on the offensive side. That's kind of what we're looking at.
Ideally, more dingers and more strikeouts as the pitcher. That's what would be great. But our number 2 guy here, and this is just like prototypical ace guy, Walker Buehler with the Dodgers entering his age 27 season. Dominant team. You know the story. Dominant team, very controlled pitcher, high expectations over the next 5 seasons for Walker Buehler, and insane asking price in Dynasty. I think he's going to be harder to acquire than our number 1 guy. And a lot of that is age related. But
yeah, I agree. It's actually why I have him number 1. I just think there's less question marks for me for Walker Buehler in LA. He's got a bit of an easier situation. Like, I think Garrett Cole got a wake-up call last year of what it's like to pitch in New York. He was really good and was booed off a field several times. Like, that's what pitching in New York is. And if you can't handle it, take a hike. But at the end of the day, like, I like the ease of success that's going to land in Walker Buehler's lap as opposed to number 1 Garrett Cole, which is why I have Buehler 1 and you have Cole 1. I mean, it's a coin flip. Like, let's call spade a spade here. Like, there is no right answer here. Like, you could probably throw DeGrom in here if you really wanted to, based on what he was doing before the injury last year.
I just don't think DeGrom's going to have the 5-year success, but for redraft, like, really, like, Cole is our number 1, Buehler's 2, Ohtani's 3, DeGrom's 4, Bieber's 5, Burns is 6. That is all. Like, you could just shuffle that up and anyone could come out. If anyone's going to be 6 in that next year, I would say maybe it's going to be Ohtani is the most likely to be the worst in that group without injury. And that's more to do with the fact that the others are going to start more and get longer runs in games. Now, if Ohtani does not hit in the games he pitches next year, he might be able to stay in those games a little bit longer, or, however Madden works it out. But beyond that, in 7, 8, 9, 10, like Urias, Alcantara, Barrios, and Wheeler as our 10th, I think you see a tiered difference. Urias got a lot of wins last year that made him very valuable, but he isn't necessarily as dominant as I think the names of the pitchers above him are. How do you feel on that, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think all these guys are elite. I had it Buehler, Cole, Burns for me as the top 3. So I'm gonna stick to that. I think those are the 3 guys with the best setup and the best repertoire. The other guys are right there, like we've said. So I like you said, I don't think there's really too much you can debate on it because they're all just that good.
And it is rare that we talk about the top players at a position, which we always like. It's funny to be like, I think this guy's better, but we're usually talking about like the 50th ranked guy at a position that we're arguing over, not the top 3, because, a lot of the dynasty winning is not done with the top 3 at the position, because those are obvious. Everybody's going for them. It's everybody that's further down the list. This is what a lock.
But speaking of that, like, we're going to be ready to lock out this episode here. We've been going for over 2 hours now. Great stuff. There's so much detail here. And we're going to cover more of the deeper pitchers throughout the rest of the offseason. I think, Robbie, we're happy to share our longer lists here, but I do think, as Robbie noted earlier, we're probably going to extend the content here on the pitching side. But once we do, then we'll share the overall list per our normal scenario. So hit us up on Twitter at DingersPod, myself at Attorney Boss, Robbie at Robbie Baseball 1 for your questions and details. Tweet at us. Don't message us. We're considering starting to share blips of the messages we get directly as paraphrased quotes that we can then manipulate to make you look silly. And we're looking forward to that. But until next time, it's been Rob and Tyler on Dingers.